On safari here this afternoon. Behind the camera is Craig. I can feel a spider web or something on my face. I'm not sure exactly what that was, but anyway. We, have decided that we are going to be... Oh, it's a little spider that was on me, that's one. We've decided we're going to be checking for Tsemba this afternoon, the young male leopard. And so we started our afternoon heading towards Gari Dam. And of course it is roasting here this afternoon. We might struggle to find a rhythm, but we are going to be looking for some shade along the way. It's around 31 degrees Celsius, so that does mean that we might be seeing a lot of birds and things in the initial part of drive. But hopefully, as the afternoon wears on, we'll get lucky. And we might find a few other things to add to the list today. But whatever we find is going to be amazing because we're in the bush. We would love to hear from you though, so if you have any questions or comments or you'd like to let us know what you are hoping to see, we can try our best to find it for you. You can find us at #WildEarth on Twitter. If you're under the age of 18, pop us an email on kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. Or you can register on the WildEarth website, head over to the channel page and submit your questions there. We will be looking forward to Now, if you listen carefully, the starling is actually busy chatting away at the moment. As I say that, it stops calling. I'm sure it's enjoying the breeze though. You can see that nice little shake out of the feathers. And it seems like it's having quite a lovely afternoon up there on that branch. Hopefully we manage to keep cool just like the bird does this afternoon. But while we head on towards Gari Dam and hope for Tsemba, let's have a look at what the weather's doing for the afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Djuma Private Game Reserve. Great to hear that Tess is already out and about, and I think she mentioned something about a spider web. Oh, speaking of which, I've also got a spider to show you, a little different one than from normal. On my left here, that Echad on camera and Gert are showing you, is a Nursery Web Spider. Good afternoon, I'm Ben. Got any questions you want to send through to me or the team about anything we've seen out here, please do send them through. I think Tess gave you the details. Otherwise, you're welcome to contact us through Twitter, #WildEarth, and of course, kids under the age of 18 can send us the emails. But yes, we've got this lovely little spider over here who I think possibly now has just disappeared. Where did you go? You were there. Hopefully you saw it right at the beginning. It was what is called a Nursery Web Spider. Can you see it now? It seems to have disappeared all of a sudden. Oh no, it is still there. My bad. Sorry, it's just the light is a bit strange. So we've seen a lot of the golden orb spiders and bark spiders and things we've shown you over the last few days, but I haven't seen one of these yet, so I thought it would be nice to point it out. Can't really show you the markings, but nursery web spiders generally have sort of two or three stripes down their abdomen, but we're looking at the underside of the spider from this angle. So you've normally got a brown stripe in the middle and sort of white stripes either side, but they do come in various shapes and sizes. And they make these rather untidy nests using a type of silk called criblet silk, which is designed more to entangle than it is to catch, like those big orb webs. But what makes it a nursery web spider is that when the spider does have eggs, she will spin this sort of little spherical web within this web, and the egg sac will be protected inside there, and when the little spiderlings hatch, they will stay within this little ball of silk that the female has produced, and she will actually sit on that and defend it against predators until they grow a little bit older. Once they've shed their skin once or twice and grown up a little bit, they will then, like most spiders, disperse themselves by a method called ballooning. So they will go to a high point on the tree and they will bring out a single strand of silk from their spinnerets and wait for the wind to catch it. And because they're so small and so light at that time, they will be whisked away in the wind, and wherever they land, assuming they don't get predated upon, of course, on the way, that's where they will set up their new home. And it's actually a very efficient way of distributing yourselves. And for a lot of time, people wondered how spiders ended up on these sort of deserted islands. But that's one of the way they do it. They just release themselves into the wind and leave themselves to the mercy of Mother Nature and its air currents. But very cool to see. We haven't seen many nursery web spiders. I think it's a little bit late in the season to see their nurseries. No, Chaga, you wouldn't want to walk into this one, no, or it would just kind of stick to you everywhere because it's that very fine, almost like candy floss type of silk. The Orb Web Spiders, though, that we've shown you a few of, though, oh, it's horrible when you walk into those. It's like walking into a piece of elastic and you sort of realise you've done it and it almost bounces you back because it's so strong. This will just entangle you, and that's sort of the method in which these spiders use to catch their prey. It just gets stuck in everything and they flail around, and obviously the spider there will pick up the vibrations of an insect struggling, and the more it struggles, the more entangled it gets, and she will rush out and subdue her prey with that neurotoxic venom and inject the digestive enzymes, which will start the process, and she will sort of externally digest you. So no, it wouldn't be very nice. But I'm going to carry on this morning. I'm going to go up this afternoon, up to Buffelshoek, down Sandy Patch, and work the west of the reserve and see what else we can find.
The 27th of March marks the change in season, whether you're in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. This means that the African sun will wake up a little bit later in the morning and go to bed a little bit earlier in the evening. To make sure that we get the best views of our favorite characters, WildEarth will change the time of Penguin Beach, and we'll be waddling on 1 hour earlier.
Free Me Wildlife as an organisation is a value-adding service to the communities of KwaZulu-Natal. We are a professional wildlife rehabilitation centre. We work with compromised Indigenous wildlife, and our whole goal is to return these animals back into the wild as wild animals. To get involved with this initiative, go to our Facebook page, Free Me Wildlife. Alternatively, you can go directly to our website, freemewildlife.org. We hope you get involved, and thank you so much for your care and support out there.
This is just incredible. I've never seen a rock monitor versus a leopard before. Now, unfortunately, this monitor does not stand a chance. Oh, look at this. This is super exciting. Did you see that? Did you see how it used its tail? And you can see this leopard has had enough now.
The unique thing in Djuma here, it's all about the characters that are within the property of Djuma, and able to follow them and all know the information of all these species. And I don't want to forget the structured communication of the management of Djuma, from directors all the way down to the bottom. What made me choose Djuma, of course, is an involvement of the landowners in the entire community. Djuma play a very good role in the local communities. They have bursaries for children. They help schools building classes. They help community in general with water service, and also help people with delivery of food and clothes for the old people in the local communities. And I've been involved myself. Djuma involved me on this. I'm the eyewitness. I was one of the facilitators.
Yeah, we're just making our way up shortcut Galago, and we bumped into another one of our common bird species we're seeing at the moment, a European roller. At some point they are going to leave and migrate back towards southern Europe, the Mediterranean and southern Asia, but we are still seeing them quite regularly at the moment, which is a lovely opportunity to still appreciate these beautiful, beautiful birds that sort of soft turquoise colour that they have in their feathers is really rather spectacular. A little bit muted today because we do have quite a lot of cloud cover. We do have some potential rain forecast over the next few days, which us, and I'm sure the bush to some extent, are looking forward to. But we're going to sit and enjoy our roller, enjoying the view, and also just have a listen, see if we can pick up any other bird calls in this area. You see how it's just manoeuvring that tail to keep balance the whole time. And it's amazing, on windy days they wobble all over the place, but their head stays perfectly still. The rest of the body moves, and it's like they anchor their head in one position so they don't lose focus as they're looking for little insects. Or small lizards, even small mammals. The other day we saw a roller having a go at a baby red-lipped Herald snake. So a very varied diet. Good afternoon, Ali. Thanks for the question. I think you asked what is the reason that they migrate. To be honest, they migrate to avoid the northern hemisphere winter. It's just very cold up there. It's rainy a lot. There's not as much food available for them, so they come down here along with many other birds. I can't give you a figure, but the number of different species that we can see during our summer months, I think, is probably at least 30% more than we see in the winter months. We have migrants coming all the way from sort of Europe and Asia down to the southern hemisphere to take advantage of our warm, wet summers and all the insects and things that we get along with it. They don't actually breed whilst they're down here. They breed up in the northern hemisphere summer. So they really just come down here on holiday, for want of a better word. Sure, it's very nice with that branch. Amazing that branch is still standing. Yeah, so they come down here to take advantage of the conditions, and then they will go back and breed during northern hemisphere summer. That's one of the reasons that we don't hear the European rollers call at all when they're down here. They're relatively silent because they don't really establish territories whilst they're here, because there's no breeding going on, there's no mate attraction or anything else that needs to be done. Ironically, the species name of this particular roller is Garrulus. Caracus garrulus, I think, is its full Latin name. The first part meaning raven-like, which is the same for all rollers. And then garrulus comes from the English word garrulus, which means talking a lot, because they do make an awful lot of noise up during the summer months. And the lilac-breasted rollers, when they start their breeding season in the early part of summer down here, also make a very sort of raucous, it's quite a harsh noise that they make. But very pretty. You know, I just love the way his tail's bobbing up and down just to keep balance in this little breeze. Haven't had a great deal of other activity, but it is nice to have a breeze. So I think we're going to continue on up towards Buffelshoek Cut Line, and then I'm going to make my way west, see if we have any activity coming in from the north. And then we'll sort of head down Sandy Patch and Impala Road and those areas, which of course is where I had the dogs the other day, which was a fantastic afternoon. I'm not anticipating something as exciting as that, but I sense it's going to be a good day. It always is. While I explore up to the north of the reserve, I'm going to send you over to JP at Pridelands, because I have no doubt he would like to say good afternoon as well.
And welcome to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment we're at Ndlovu Dam, and so far the dam has lived up to its reputation as Ndlovu Dam, as several elephants have already come to visit. At the moment there's one that's just walking straight towards us. And on the opposite side of the dam, we also have a buffalo. So my name is JP Leroux, and behind the cameras, we've got Mpo. Let's see what our elephant and our buffalo is up to. The buffalo that you do see on the opposite side of the dam was part of a bigger herd that was here a few minutes ago. They all came in for a quick drink and then started moving off. But you often get these older bulls that just simply decide that they rather would hang to the back and enjoy a mud wallow. In some cases, they will sometimes catch up with the herd on a later stage. I just want to come to our elephant. He's now coming straight up to this leadwood in front of us. Now he's covered full of mud as he has been spraying himself with mud, and now he's rubbing himself against a tree to get rid of all those itches and things that are hindering him. Let's see what he gets up to. Sometimes I also feel like this elephant, especially when I walk through areas where pepper ticks are quite prevalent. They also make you itch like crazy, and you just want to go and scratch against something to get rid of that itch that those little pepper ticks can create. Maybe I should try a mud bath next time as well. So far the temperatures are incredibly high at the moment, and the humidity is quite high, as our warm front is now moving in. Good afternoon, Dan, and yes, I also have to agree, awesome camera work, and Mpo is in an incredibly creative frame of mind this afternoon. Let's see what else he gets up to. Our elephant is now moving off, and right in front of him there's a little squirrel that's running off. I'm sure he has got no desire to be trampled by such a large animal, and is going to stay well out of reach of our elephant. Our elephant is just now moving right in front of one of the other vehicles that also came in to join the sighting with us. I'm sure he's going to move on and go and feed somewhere now. It's amazing how we can almost predict what elephants are going to do when they come down to water. First they approach in an incredibly excited manner, then drink, then wallow and dust bathe, and then leave and go and feed again. While we're watching our elephant now disappearing from our waterhole and moving into the bush, let's go and see what the rest of the team is up to.
Thanks, JP. Yep, we're bumbling north, up Shortcut Gallagher, and I'm going to go and check the northern boundary on Buffelshoek. And as I said, make my way a little bit west and then come back south through the reserve. I know they had Tortoise Pan this morning in that area of the reserve, but I know he crossed to the south. But from chatting to Tessa, he does like to pop back occasionally, and I know he likes that area around Sandy Patch and Impala Road. So I'm going to sort of half-heartedly cross my fingers, but I'm determined not to look for anything specific this afternoon. I just want to enjoy it. It's not hot. After yesterday, I wasn't out, but I was back at camp, and it was 37, 38 degrees. It was really rather unpleasant, so this is a real pleasure to be driving around in these cooler temperatures. And potentially we might get a little bit more activity, because it is not so hot, or a bit more activity earlier. One thing I do want to find, though, is some elephants. I have only really had one elephant sighting the whole time I've been here so far. We've got a lot of marula trees in this area, which produce the marula fruit. Some of you, I'm sure, are aware of amarula, that sort of liqueur that is very famous in South Africa, that comes, or came originally from the marula fruits. Now, obviously, we synthesize the flavour. But elephants love marulas, and we've got a lot of well-established marulas in this area, which were producing quite literally tons of fruit a few months ago, peaks in sort of February. But we have passed the marula fruiting season, and the elephants seem to have sort of disappeared since then. I know JP is giving you plenty of elephants, but I do enjoy watching elephants. They're so fascinating to watch. I miss elephants. So that, I suppose, is top of my list. And I keep saying I want to find an owl. In fact, there are some elephant tracks on the road here, but they were going back that way. Perhaps we'll pick them up around a sandy patch, but they don't look overly fresh. So yeah, elephants and owls, that's my plan for this afternoon. Alright, so I'm almost up at Buffelshoek Cutline, so I'm going to have a look up there and see if we can find any tracks and see what else happens.
The 27th of March marks the change of season, whether you're in the northern or southern hemisphere. That also means that the sun goes to bed a little earlier and rises a little earlier too here in Africa. To make sure we get the best views of our favorite characters for WildEarth, we'll be changing our safari times here at Safari Live. We'll be live 1 hour later for our sunrise safari and 1 hour earlier for our sunset safari.
Spinning around in outer space, our planet gives life to the human race. Every day when WildEarth is out on drive, we see our Earth's beauty. We see her alive. We need our planet, that is true, but our planet needs us too. WildEarth will be celebrating Earth Day on the 22nd of April with a special Safari live show.
We have got an epic battle going on between a pirate fly and a drop-tail ant. Look at that, look at that. So what's happening is these ants are moving from one side to another, and these pirate flies are trying to steal the baby ants.
I am here at Jacuzzi, where Cheeky the African penguin was identified for the first time on the 20th of January 2022. And Cheeky can be distinguished from the other African penguins by its broad black breastband, as well as its beautiful black spots along its belly. My favorite distinguishing feature of this African penguin is its beautiful white cheeks. Join me here at Penguin Beach daily to learn more about this African penguin.
I am on an adventure. It's a very beautiful one, bit of a tricky one, but it's a lot of fun. We are going to the last place that Semba was this morning. So we are on the banks of the Malawati River, south of the dam wall, and we are having a little look, because from here, if I can point it out before I keep going, just in front of us there's a nice tall tree line. Just below that is the Malawati drainage line. And he was hanging around here and looking like he might move south. So it's a pretty cool area to be. While we are listening, it's also a great opportunity for us to have a look and see if there might be any birds alarm calling. I can hear a little bit of unrest to our left. But nothing major, nothing that tells me there's a leopard right here. But at the same time, I mean, we were with Darkmane this morning and there wasn't a single bird alarm calling. Lola, that's what it's all about. It's all one giant adventure. Whether it's big or small or even nothing that we see out here, it's still an adventure. It's amazing. But I do want to keep driving towards the edge of the drainage. That's one of the little advantages that we have in a short wheelbase vehicle with 4x4, is that we can access areas that maybe something longer might not be able to. So this is fairly easy for Rusty and Wendy to manage, provided you know what you're doing when you're driving. We're kind of just checking along. There's some beautiful big Tambweti thickets. That is very popular for leopards, but also some nice little overhanging sections with dead trees and things pushed over by the elephants. So when you get to a place like this, it gives me a little bit more of a wide view down into the dip itself. But can you picture why a leopard would want to be here? It is so nice and thick. To find the leopard, you must think like the leopard. And this is exactly where I would be. I'd be relaxing somewhere, especially with the storm coming in. I'd use the cover to my advantage and hop out at something if it came along. Now I know it has only been 26 minutes, but I seem to have found my rhythm after having a spider on my face and a wasp on my hand all at the same time while I was talking to you and looking at you. It was delightful. I seem to have regained my rhythm, and now I am thinking like a leopard, and that is exactly what I'm going to do, is keep thinking like a leopard. So I'm going to move on. I'm going to check a little bit further south. Actually, I can go forward and see if I can find Simba. Wish me luck. But while I do that, I'm going to send you over to Ben to see what he's up to.
Yeah, thanks, Tess. Good luck trying to locate on that leopard. I'm crossing fingers for you. In the meantime, we've been watching this male impala. Looks like he may have already established himself a little territory. Just before you arrived, he was sitting beautifully staring at us, but in classic WildEarth fashion. 2 minutes before you arrived, or 30 seconds, he's moved just behind a tree. You may have noticed just when the feed cut to us, though, he was kind of smiling at the camera, had his lips exposed, and you might have just seen him licking his lips there. What he was doing was analysing the urine of a female who had just urinated in that spot, testing to see whether she was ready to breed or not. And by making that sort of smiley face, that's what we call a Fleming Grimace, and that was accessing his organ of Jacobson, which is able to process all the hormonal information contained within the urine of the female. I think I'm going to take a chance and just move forward slightly so we can get him out of from behind that tree for you, because he's a rather magnificent specimen, I would suggest. Is that good for you, Echard? Can you see him better now? Should be able to. Yes, he's a rather good-looking boy, I have to say. He's only got himself a few ladies at the moment. It's possible that he's already established this territory, although we haven't heard much in terms of the rust itself. But look at him, isn't he magnificent? Yes, so he's analysing that urine, and contained within that urine is all the information about that specific female who had urinated there. So potentially her age, her reproductive status, her mood, all of that information is contained within. And you can see he's ruminating nicely. Excuse me, so being a ruminant means, of course, he has a 4-chambered stomach, and he's not feeding at the moment, but he has sort of stored what he has eaten recently in his rumen. That's sort of the first part of his 4-chambered stomach, has regurgitated a little ball of food and is rechewing and rechewing and rechewing, breaking it up into smaller pieces. Oh, a little scratch. And then when he swallows it again, when it is sufficiently broken up, it will pass through into the next 3 compartments in the stomach. And they produce an awful lot of saliva, ruminant animals, because the saliva has got digestive enzymes to help break it down, and there are literally trillions of little microscopic organisms living in that rumen to help break down the food further. Thanks, Amy, for your comment. He is a good-looking impala, I have to say, but all the boys are in very good condition at the moment. They've been fattening themselves up over the last couple of months, taking advantage of the rains that we've had over the last sort of 3 or 4 months. Ready for now. This is big time for impalas. It is rutting season. It's time for all the boys to show off to the females, so this is the time of year where they look their best. But he looks particularly shiny. It's always a good indication of how healthy that animal is by how shiny the coat is. And you can see even on a relatively overcast day like today, that coat is shining beautifully. He's now not exactly showing you his best side. You can see those little black lines on his rump. There's lots of theories as to what those black lines are for. Some suggest it is a following mechanism. But yeah, there's lots of different ideas of what they may be. But we see so many impalas, I shall keep that one in the bank, and I'll discuss that with you next time we get some impalas. But I'm sure you guys are as keen as I am to see how Tess's leopard search is going, so let's send you back over to her and see if she's had any luck yet.
My adventure has just brought me back to Twin Dams Road. We got to a section we could not cross, but that's okay. We're going back to the dam wall and then we're going to try Central Road. Let's see if there's anything along there. I feel like if Tsemba was still here in the same position, I know the other vehicle could not get as far as we did, so he's probably moved. So we want to go and check the other road for tracks as much as we're checking Twin Dams Road for tracks. But I suppose the pressure of a young male leopard and the pressure that he feels with Malawati around, not ideal to stick around in one area. Let's have a look regardless. I'm telling you, these vehicles never cease to amaze. They really don't. James, some birds do alarm when they see vehicles. Oxpeckers are a good example of that, even when they see, well, especially when they see people on foot, they alarm call. But also, you know, things like francolins, Swainson's spurfowls, those kinds of birds, they definitely do if they get a fright. So we can't rule out the possibility that when a bird is alarm calling, that it might be 1, a vehicle, 2, people on the vehicle, 3, people on foot, 4, a squirrel that jumped up in the grass next to them and gave them a bit of a fright, or 5, maybe just looking for another Swainson's spurfowl. So you never really know until you can definitively look and see what they are alarming at. But it's a very good indicator regardless, especially things like monkeys, baboons. You should never trust a fork-tailed drongo, I can tell you that much. They're one of the less reliable birds because they mimic alarm calls for a very good reason, to steal food. So when they follow things like mongooses around, they'll make alarm calls, mimic them from other birds or occasionally even from the mongooses. And that gets the mongoose to drop its food, and then they steal it. Alright, as I pull up to the waterhole, I'm going to send you to JP to see if his buffaloes are still at the water.
Welcome back to Pridelands. Our buffalo is still here, still enjoying the mud, as well as at the moment he's busy ruminating, and what you'll notice is that there's a sideway movement from the jaws. You'll normally watch them, but they will move the jaw from side to side for a moment towards the left, and then it's followed by a rightward movement. And the function of this is to actually break down food that has already been ingested. So when it comes to buffalo and all the different antelope species, as well as giraffe, they've got a 4-chambered stomach, and the first chamber acts as a gravity-specific chamber where all the coarse materials will flow to the top. It's then regurgitated and rechewed before it actually enters a specialized tube, which is known as a diverticulum, before it goes into the second stomach chamber, which is known as a reticulum. I'm not going to spend too much time explaining all the functions of those stomach chambers, but one of the things that we do find is that when it does come to ruminants, that they can digest roughly 66% of what they can eat, compared to elephant, which has got a rather poor digestive system, where we find that they can only digest some 40 to 44% of what they eat. But when it does come to elephants, they've also got an ability to eat a lot more food and pass and process that through their system at a much quicker rate to gain the necessary nutrition. But when it does come to elephants as well, and animals that are hindgut fermenters, where there's a single large stomach, they do have to eat a large amount of food compared to most of the ruminants, which can be a little bit more selective about what they feed. In the case of buffalo, they do feed on a bulk amount of grasses, and they can get most of their nutrition from that, compared to certain antelope species, which is incredibly selective about what they eat. and generally will only feed on certain high-quality grasses, which is at a certain height.
Over the past year, many WildEarth explorers have won life-changing travel prizes.
Today I was told I have won the most amazing prize to go to Marataba. I can't believe it.
I am most excited to meet some of the guides.
The animals, the birds, and everything else it has to offer. We can't wait to go.
I would love to take my little grandson up with me on this experience to Funda.
WildEarth has brought so much to my life, and I am thrilled and grateful to have this opportunity.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to visit.
Thank you very much for this amazing prize, WildEarth.
Sign up to be an explorer today and you will be entered into a monthly draw which could see you jetting off to a dream location in 2022. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
I think there's just so many wonderful things about elephants, and because they've got large space requirements, when you're conserving elephants, you're automatically conserving all the other smaller species that share the landscape with them. In 1996, my mother and I started drawing individual elephant ear patterns, so that's the margin of the ears.
Elephants Alive is a South African-based NGO that conducts research on elephants and works where elephants go. Elephants have taken us from South Africa to Zimbabwe, Mozambique and Eswatini as they forge vital corridors connecting protected areas at landscape level.
We've been going for 25 years, collaring elephants, developing individual elephant IDs, and we've also got a really big project where we protect large trees from elephant impact. And then we've also got various community outreach.
Our aim is to ensure the survival of elephants and their habitats and to promote harmonious coexistence between elephants and people.
It's a legless skink, but I'm trying to identify this snake that's come out. Oh, no ways. It's decided to leave. Go off the road, making way for it, and then we'll carry on.
So we had a very brief glimpse of a hyena as we turned onto Central Road from the dam wall. Hart came walking past. We managed to follow her for 30 seconds. Then she cut off into the bush and disappeared, unfortunately. But she was on some form of a mission, which is quite exciting. We don't know where she's going. Maybe she can smell Tsemba or Tlalamba. And she seemed to be walking in a fairly straight line, straight through the block, which is in itself a little bit unusual for hyenas. They prefer walking on the roads when they can. But it was very nice to see Hart out and about. We had her at the den site this morning, so she's moved quite a distance. So we are just checking along here for tracks. We did a little bit more of Mvubu Road just to check for more tracks, and no luck yet. So we're going to check Giraffe Crossing, carry on through on Central Road down to maybe Vulture's Nest and back onto Twin Dams Road. Now with all of this activity, it makes me wonder. Malawati was here, Tsemba was here. Of course the lions moved through the area, they moved through the southern area this morning. I would not be surprised if Tlalamba has moved her cubs back east along Central Road towards Gwaripan. I have a feeling she would have done that because all the action was happening around Gari Dam, especially the hyenas, the male leopard, the wild dogs. So it is very likely to me that she will have moved her cubs. So we are just checking very carefully as we go through all of the nice thick Tambweti sections, my favorites. Minnie, have you ever known me to give up? Oh, thank you though, I appreciate it. Don't get dissuaded from things very easily. I'm what we would call a tough cookie in South Africa. I actually haven't done Central Road this whole stretch in a while. I've done further east from Nyala Road north-south. I've done that section east. I haven't done the section since I was with Morgan a while ago. Crazy. Anyway, it sounds like Ben is up to some very interesting birding. So while I look for tracks, I'm going to send you over to him.
Thanks, Tess. Good luck as always that side. And yes, I'm doing some birding. I do enjoy a little bit of birding. We found this beautiful little raptor sitting in the dead tree. This is a black-winged kite. It used to be known as a black-shouldered kite, but they changed the name recently. It's taken me a little bit of time to get my head around that name change. But look at that face. It's stunning. It's got these, can't really tell because of the light today, but these sort of amber to kind of ruby red eyes. Very, very beautiful little bird of prey. In South Africa, we often see them sitting on phone lines and things as we're driving, and they kind of hover. They don't hover in the way like a hummingbird does, but they'll face into the wind and just hold position whilst they're scanning the ground for little rodents and other prey sources. You can see it looks like he's hunting at the moment, having a good look around for anything moving around in the grass. They are monogamous species, so I couldn't tell you whether this is the male or the female. But there should be another one somewhere in this area. And speaking of monogamy, and I hope I don't get into trouble for saying this, but I feel obliged to mention that today is a very special day for me as well, because today is my parents' 50th wedding anniversary, which I think is an incredible achievement, especially when they had to put up with me for quite a lot of that period of time as well. So if you are watching, Mum and Dad, congratulations, and I hope everybody's safe and well. Yeah, beautiful birds. They also see, like a lot of birds of prey do, in ultraviolet light. One of the benefits of that when you're hunting, particularly when you're hunting rodents, which is one of their favourite source of food, is that rodents tend to follow a relatively set pattern. They move around in what we call runs, almost like a racetrack, which they'll regularly forage in. And one of the reasons we don't want rats and mice and things in our house, because they do urinate almost consistently. It's constantly leaving a trail of urine behind, and urine glows in UV light. If you've ever watched CSI and those sort of forensic programs, you're probably aware of that. So something like a kite is able to look down and see that sort of circular routes that a particular rodent will take regularly, and that route will be aglow, a bit like the scorpion under the UV light we've looked at recently. So it's very, very easy to pick the rodent while he's on his run, because he'll be blocking out the UV light of the urine trail underneath. So that's one of the ways that these birds are so successful in their hunting. So not only are they seen in the RGB spectrum that we do, the red, green and blue, just like the old TV screens, they also have a fourth type of visual receptive cell in their eye, which is specifically designed to pick up ultraviolet light. They're very, very well adapted for that specific hunting technique. Gabby, thank you so much. I'm sure if they're watching, they will appreciate that as well. It's quite an achievement. I'm very happy for them. But of course, a lot of birds are monogamous out here. Majority of, in fact, all raptors, I think, are monogamous. And a little earlier, oh, scratch. A little earlier, we were watching a little pair of yellow-fronted canaries. They were just a little bit difficult to frame. The roller we had earlier. And then we also do get different types of breeding strategies, of course. There are certain species where we have multiple, or a male with multiple females. There are other ones where you actually have females who have multiple males, groups and cooperative breeding birds, lots. Thanks, Ray. Yes, it is nice to see a black-winged kite. I mean, it is quite a common bird in South Africa. In certain areas, we do see them quite regularly, but this is the first one that I've spotted on Djuma. And I do enjoy these little birds of prey. We've got gabar goshawks and little sparrowhawks and shikras. So there's quite a few in this sort of size bracket, as it were. But we don't see them very often, so this is very nice. Whether it's got something to do with the cooler temperatures, perhaps, I'm not sure. But if we were to see it flying, you would see it's got sort of white underwings and then these black, kind of black shoulders, hence the original name black-shouldered kite. Quite why they've changed it to a black-winged kite, I'm not quite sure, because most of the wing is white. But say, I'm not in charge of those name changes. We just have to try and keep up with them all. Busy having a preen, just making sure those feathers are in good condition, especially if it has to drop down or accelerate. Very important your flight feathers are in good condition. Probably potentially taking out some parasites and things out of the downy feathers on its chest there. Afternoon, white mane. No, they're not really scavengers. These guys do hunt more than they do scavenge, and they're very successful hunters. So the majority of their diet, I think it's up to sort of 80% or so, is little rodents. I'm just going to quickly check now what else they might take. Yeah, small diurnal mammals, rodents, some small birds, lizards and insects occasionally. But I don't see any particular mention of scavenging, although I'm sure they will. I mean, no one's going to pass up a free meal, but they are very much known to do the hunting for themselves. All right, I think we've had a really beautiful look at this kite. I'm going to continue on south along Sandy Patch, head back down to the access road and then hop over there towards Impala and Impala clearings. No doubt we will find some Impala clearings, some Impalas. But while I do that, I'm going to send you back across to JP and see what's happening at his dam and see what's going on at Pridelands.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment I'm looking at a little sparrowhawk and it was busy trying to catch a number of different starlings that are visiting this big leadwood tree. So far, unfortunately, it has been unsuccessful as a species of bird of prey. It's quite small in size. I've just tried to go for another bird, but it looks like if it missed, this time it went for a dove. There it goes again, and back into the leadwood. Unfortunately, it's now a little bit too far for us to zoom in, but there was also something else that we just wanted to tell you a little bit more about. While we were discussing different strategies in rumination versus animals that has a simple large stomach, we just thought we might share some differences between the dung of these different groups of animals with you. So for those of you that has just joined the show, we were discussing ruminants, which are four-chambered stomach animals, compared to non-ruminants or hindgut fermenters, which has got a single large stomach. In the case of an elephant, this is our hindgut fermenter or non-ruminant, and when we do look at hindgut fermenters, their dung is always loosely packed and coarse grain. We then also find dung of a ruminant right over here, and this belongs to a buffalo. And generally, when we do look at buffalo, it is actually very fine-grained because of the complex digestive system which they have, and also because of them re-chewing the cud. Some of the other things that we also will generally find is that the pellets of most of the antelope species is quite hard and compact, but always fine-grained, which is another classic feature of it. When it does come to rumination, it's not only the benefit of it to actually, the benefit of it is not only achieved by simply getting the maximum amount of nutrition out of it, we also see that it allows the animal to fill up its stomach and then either move into the shade or into an area of safety to go and retrieve the food instead of having to continue feeding in the direct sunlight. And as we are quite often mentioned, sun actually robs animals from a lot of energy because it does take a lot of energy to keep a consistent body temperature. There's a few other things that I also wanted to quickly mention while it comes to different animals, when it comes to eating different types of vegetation. Buffalo in general is just a grass eater, and they feed on coarse grain grasses. I have seen them in times of drought actually feeding on red bush willow. An elephant over here as a hindgut fermenter. This is a mixed feeder, and they literally feed on both leaf and grass material. And then lastly, we also get animals such as giraffe, which is a leaf eater, and very occasionally, seldom, but they will actually go and feed on grass. I think there's a record of something like 0.6%, if I remember correctly, what they might take into their diet. There's something else which comes to mind when it does come to giraffes. They're actually one of the largest ruminant species that we have, and they also have a ruminant with the longest gestation period. And they've also got another trick up their sleeve when it comes to digesting plant material, and that is also to actually have finger-like protrusions inside the stomach, and those finger-like protrusions that they have in the stomach then enlarges the surface area and make them more efficient at absorbing nutrients than many other species of ruminants.
At WildEarth, our explorers are treated to a weekly newsletter, bursting with fascinating features and never-seen-before snippets. Recently, we have added some brand new sections which we think you will love. Find out what happens behind the scenes with our crew when they are not live on WildEarth. Have a giggle at our moments of the week from both Safari and Penguin Beach. And Ranger Eric answers your questions with fascinating and in-depth explanations as to the whys and hows of nature.
Wild dogs coming out of, or the puppies coming out of the den site making those very high-pitched noises.
All of this and more delivered to your inbox every week. So what are you waiting for? Head over to our website, sign up to be an explorer, and join the adventure. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature. The Endangered Wildlife Trust is among Southern Africa's largest and most established non-governmental conservation organizations. Our strategic vision centers on saving species, conserving habitats, and benefiting people. In 2021, the EWT secured habitats, reintroduced African wild dogs and cheetahs into reserves across Southern Africa, and created vulture-safe zones to reduce major threats to vultures, such as poisoning and electrocution. On the 3rd of March 2022, we celebrate World Wildlife Day under the theme Recovering Key Species from Ecosystem Restoration. Standing strong alongside our partners, donors, supporters and friends, the EWT staff have achieved remarkable gains for conservation. Thank you for helping us protect forever together.
Shongile was born on the 3rd of February 2016 to Karula, the Queen of Djuma. We watched her grow from birth to enforced independence when Karula disappeared. On the 19th of August 2016, Tandy, Shongile's sister, was on the prowl. From nowhere she appeared, and a traumatic fight ensued. That was the last sighting of her on Djuma. She disappeared into the wilderness just as her mother before.
Okay, well, I haven't got very far since I was enjoying that little black-winged kite, because something just caught my eye when I went past this little red bush willow on the left of the vehicle here. I had to go back for a second take. It's interesting, we talk about bush eyes, just every now and again you pick up a strange shape or a strange colour that you realise sort of shouldn't be there, and your brain processes it, and then you have to, or your eyes see it, and then it takes a while for your brain to process it. So I went back and had a look. Whoop, I hope the wind doesn't make it too difficult. What you've got there is a little snake skin. So it's still a small snake. In terms of length of what you can see there, you're probably only looking at about 3 or 4 inches. So it was still a young snake that shed its skin here. And young snakes particularly will do that quite a few times a year. It might be sort of 10 or 15 times a year as they're actively growing. And then, oh, sorry, Echad, it's a bit of a tricky one for you to keep in the frame. Once they reach adulthood, they might shed their skin maybe twice a year, just to sort of keep it new. But they don't grow like us in terms of the skin stretching with them, and the new skin will develop under the old skin. And then when it's time to shed the skin, which in snakes we call sloughing, Often what will happen is that sometimes they'll actually go for a swim, and that just helps loosen the scales a little bit. Otherwise they'll sort of anchor themselves against something. Here obviously this little snake has anchored itself around a small branch, and then will rub its nose and for the skin to break, and then will slowly inch its way out of the old skin, and that is all that's left behind. So yeah, that's quite an interesting find. What snake it is, difficult to tell. I did go and have a look, because sometimes there are telltale signs where you can be species specific if you find a skin, but it's a little bit destroyed, and if you can see the head nicely, then you could do what's called a scale count, and every snake has a very specific snail count across scale count, not snail count, sorry, across certain parts of his face, and you could, with the right book and the right material, identify it to a species level, but I don't see enough of the head of the snake left intact. Yeah, thanks for the comment there, Yanni. Yeah, you don't see this every day. I'm sure there's plenty of them around, but there's not often you actually get to find them. This one happened to be at eye level and just caught my eye. I actually thought it might have been a stick insect or something when we went past. But yeah, what snake this could be, very difficult to say. I mean, we do get quite a few arboreal species here. Mambas are known to go up into trees. We have the vine snakes and the twig snakes. I've seen Mozambique spitting cobras up in trees, spotted bush snake, which is a very common snake we get here, marbled tree snakes. There's quite a few which are quite at home up in the branches. So I wouldn't like to be species specific. But a good piece of advice for anybody who is around snakes or does find a snake: if you do see a snake and its eyes are sort of a sort of opalescent, opaque, pearly, bluish sort of colour, please be very mindful and respectful of it, because that actually shows you that old skin is beginning to die off and it's getting ready to shed its skin. And because of that, it can be quite aggressive. They'll normally hide themselves away and avoid contact with most things. But yes, they can be a lot more aggressive because their eyesight is sort of being compromised, and they know that they're going to go through this process in the very near future. So be very aware if you do find a snake with those cloudy eyes. All right, that was a nice little find. You never know what the bush is going to show you, and so the big things are always exciting, but sometimes these small things are equally fascinating. So I think a big shout out to Echad there as well for keeping that thing in shot, because the wind is picking up a little bit, potentially bringing in some cooler, wetter weather later this afternoon. I think let's carry on. We're going to go down Sandy Patch, head back towards Vuatela Access, and then hop over the road and go down Impala Drive. And see, maybe there's been some activity. I'm still on the hunt for any elephants. I haven't heard anything, I haven't seen anything, but you never know. Alright, well, I continue on my merry way. Let's go back to Tess on her little adventure and see if she's had any fortune tracking down timber from this morning.
I am hoping for elephants as well, but I'm going to go and check one of the dams. I've moved away from the area of Gari Dam. I'm now headed towards Treehouse Dam, just to see if there has been any update, movement at all in this area. I haven't found a single track of Tsemba, but I will be heading further down Twin Dams Road a little bit later. For now though, we have had a little bit of luck with birds. We've had a few lilac-breasted rollers and things like that. So I'm hoping the luck continues as we go towards the dam. I try to say go and head at the same time. Sometimes our brains do weird things. Sometimes. So of course the Hyena Den is along this way, and I know that Hyena Boy in particular wants to see some hyenas. So I am going to be heading there to just have a quick look, a little update to see who might be home, because this morning it was only Hart and Intima. Maybe we'll get lucky this afternoon with Corky or Ribbon, maybe both. Considering the weather, it's not unlikely that the hyenas would be there because they don't have to hide from the sun. Actually got the old den site on my right now, and the next one is just down to the left. Old/new/old. I guess this is the new/old den site, and that's the old/new den site. adorable. There is a little pair of steenbok. Oh, running away. Very shy little animals, but so cute. Look like a little pair, a male and a female possibly, sticking together. They are one of my favorite antelopes. Absolutely gorgeous. Oh, I don't know if they're going to stick around for that either. We'll give it a try. Oh yay, they stuck around. You can definitely see the one on the right has horns. That's a young male. Actually not necessarily that young. And the one on the left does not seem to have horns, so possibly the female. So this would be a monogamous pair, most likely. They look very similar in size. I wouldn't think it's a mother-son. I would definitely think that this is a pair. They're quite sweet. They're one of the few mammals that will actually try to mate for life if they can. Very territorial. They don't have very big territories considering how small they are, and they're not water dependent. They don't have to have a water hole or even a puddle in their territory because they don't really drink water. They get it from the plants, but they are fiercely territorial of the little area that they are in. And they'll scent mark, they'll fight with each other if they need to. He's very curious. Kim, believe it or not, yes, this is an adult male steenbok. You can see by the size of his horns that he is an adult. Youngsters would have very small tipped horns, so just above the skull, like you would see in young impalas or even young kudus. This is a full-sized male. They are the smallest little antelope that we get here. You'll see he also doesn't have a tail. Very, very short little tail section. I just want to watch and see what happens. We don't often get them sitting still. Brenda, they have such excellent camouflage. You're absolutely right, blending right in. And being so short, with the naked eye, it's quite tough to spot them because they're below the grass level. Look at that from a distance. Almost impossible to see him. If it hadn't have been for the fact that they both looked up right next to each other and looked at me, I noticed the shape of their ears. I would have driven right past. Now, one of the best things to me that steenbok do is they actively cover part of their tracks. When I say their tracks, I don't mean their footprints. I mean, when this male steenbok goes to the bathroom, he digs a little hole with his hooves. Ah, there he goes. He will then defecate into the hole, tiny little pellets, very, very small, the size of BB gun pellets, if you know what those are, a few millimeters long. And then they cover it up with sand so that it doesn't smell. Kind of acts as a territorial marking as well, because they will each know their own scent and the other's scents in the area. But it means that predators might not be able to smell the fresh droppings because they've got such a small territory. They don't have many other places to go, I suppose. It's a good way to avoid predation. Very fascinating. It's the only antelope that does that. But I just like that they don't really even need to drink. Alright, I'm going to go and check the new/old/new den site and send you over to Rowan at Ngala.
Afternoon everyone and welcome to Ngala. We are very close to where we had the wild dogs this morning, and so we decided to come check this area again, see if we have any luck. So yeah, all we need to do is go a little bit further west and check where we left them. My name's Rowan, I'll be your guide this afternoon, and behind the camera I've got Panda. And that is literally our plan for the afternoon, is just to find the wild dogs and see how long we can sit with them. Lots of impalas on the way here, very relaxed. Lots of wildebeest on the way here, also very relaxed. But yeah, take it as it comes. They might have moved today. It hasn't been too hot. Looks like some rain clouds are coming in from the west, southwesterly side. So they might already be on the move, but we'll get into that area soon, I suppose, and then we'll check it out. Yeah, they ran quite an interesting route.
Okay. Oh, welcome back to Djuma, everybody. Apologies for the little signal issues there at Ingala, but we're sitting here on that open area on Sandy Patch, and we've got a lovely sort of aggregation of animals. We've got a nice territorial male blue wildebeest, or brindled gnu, as its sort of proper name is, or its more traditional English name, I should say. We've got a huge herd of impala off to the right. And I think we're going to struggle to see them, but just behind the gnu, we also did have a couple of warthogs flitting around. So we've got lots of nice little animals here. I see our gnus approaching us. You can see this is a beautiful big male. Look at the size of those horns. Loping through the veldt. Hello, boy. A very impressive animal. You can see how those horns curl up beyond the length of his ears. It's one of the easiest ways to distinguish between a male and a female. The female's sort of upturn of the horn tends to happen before the end of the ears. He's still coming. Hopefully he's going to pop out from behind these trees in a moment. I wonder if he's going to come just to the right of me, sort of where there's a junction on the road. There's a clear patch where I can see some wildebeest dung. And one of the ways they mark territory is they have what we call a stomping ground, so a midden, which he's just approaching now, and he may well defecate in there and possibly sort of paw the ground with his hooves. It's all a sort of a visual and an olfactory scent marking mechanism. Something gave him a fright in the grass. I think it was a squirrel, actually. That's why he just sort of trotted a little bit. And then I don't know if you heard that goof. That's his alarm call. So again, the same way we use the impalas and other antelope to help us find predators, there you hear it again. That snort is an alarm call from a blue wildebeest. Are you going to come to your midden? So just there in front of him you can see that sort of bare patch of land. Nope, he's going to go past it. So you're asking about the stripes as to what they're used for. I don't know if you say, I suppose it would be a distraction for predators. Yes, it's just all the sort of the same idea of what we call those disruptive markings of just breaking up the outline of the animal. Remember that its main predator would be lion. This is a bit big for a leopard to take out, although it's not impossible. It's a good-sized animal. And even though to you and I it looks fairly obvious, remember that lions see in black and white. So they're going to see in multiple shades of blacks and whites and greys. And if this animal was in tall grass, and then in fact, it's a nice thing to do if you ever get a chance to come out here. Take a picture of a kudu or a wildebeest in long grass, and then convert it into black and white and have a look at it, and you'll see how effective those sort of camouflage markings actually are. They just help them disappear into the veldt. He seems a bit jumpy this afternoon. He seems to have disappeared. He didn't stop off at his midden, but alas, no problem. I'm just going to move slightly forward. You can see all the impalas have got their head up. They obviously saw the wildebeest jumping around and having a bit of a fright. So I'm going to go and have a look at these impala and just make sure that wildebeest didn't see something that he didn't like, but I think he pretty much just jumped at his own shadow, to be honest.
Safari Guide of the Year 2022 is upon us. An event like no other, where guides from across the country join together to learn, share experiences, show off their skills, and tell tales of the wild. But it's not all fun and games in the African bush. This is a competition to see who is the very best of the best in the guiding world. If you are a qualified safari guide and have what it takes to go up against your peers, download the nomination form from the FAGASA website and send it to md@fagasa.org.za by the 31st of March 2022. Dream it, guide it, win it. Pangolin, known as the respected wise old man of the African bush, is said to be a symbol of good luck and the bringer of rain. 8 species of pangolins are found worldwide, of which 4 occur in Africa. This mysterious creature is now the most poached animal on our planet. The African Pangolin Working Group will strive towards the conservation and protection of the African pangolin species and the habitat they live in. The African Pangolin Working Group has been mandated by the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment to assist and support with the retrieval, release process and the research of pangolins in South Africa. Each rescued pangolin is assessed, treated and rehabilitated by an experienced team of veterinarians and rehabilitation specialists. We can ensure the survival of the species. Together, we can make a difference.
Right, so Marips has found himself a puff adder that he's busy playing with, which is dangerous. I've seen leopards die from puff adder bites. I think he got hit on the paw. So he's obviously taken snakes on before. But at what cost, Marips?
Okay, well, I'm not sure what had upset the wildebeest there. The wind just picked up, so I think more than anything else, he just gave himself a fright. We've got a nice big male warthog. He's just hiding behind the trees at the moment, unfortunately, but hopefully you can see that sort of grey mass moving occasionally from right to left. And all around him as well is a lovely, great big herd of impala, which I'm sure we'll show you at some point. But we were hoping to show you a nice view of this warthog because he had a nice set of tusks on him. Looked like a big old male. We had a couple of them moving around when we first pulled into this area. And he also had an oxpecker on his back. You can just see an impala sort of through the trees on the left there. There's probably a herd of about, I would think, 50 impalas here, and one rather proud looking male as well. He also looks as if he's snagged himself a nice group of ladies. But yes, this warthog is a little bit camera shy, I think. Fiona, thank you for the question, and that's an excellent question. Would it affect the big cats if the impalas became extinct? Absolutely it would. Obviously it depends on the species. Lions do take impala, but they generally prefer slightly larger prey, so wildebeest and zebra, for example. But an area like this where we don't have a huge population of those animals, in fact I haven't seen a zebra in the last sort of 10 days because we don't have big tracts of wide open land. They're all up a little bit further north of us in an area called the Malawati at the moment because that's much more dominated by grasslands, and being a bulk grazer they want more grass. But it would certainly make it more difficult for the leopards to find sufficient food, and particularly the wild dogs. For the dogs, impala make up the majority of their diet. However, nature is pretty adaptable, so I'm sure they would make a plan, and they would still be able to capture other prey, but we would not be able to support such a large population of these animals, that's for sure. We have in game reserves what's called a carrying capacity, which is sort of the number of individuals that you can sustain in that area based upon the availability of resources, be it food or water or shelter for births and pups or lambs or whatever animal we're discussing. And if you remove a major food source like impalas, then yes, certainly the population numbers of the cats would be affected. They'd still be here, but we would by no means be able to support such a large population. And what makes Djuma, of course, so special is the number of leopards that we see. And I think they would go in search of food elsewhere and spread out, and we'd probably find that territories would expand, and we would have much fewer individuals in the area. But good question, thank you. It's very important to remember everything out here plays a role. The ecosystem is in constant flux. It is a dynamic thing, and everything affects everything else. Too many of one thing, not enough of another thing, and they all have knock-on effects to a whole variety of other organisms. So just removing or changing one thing can make a big difference in the long run. This is a very serene, very typically African scene in front of us. We've got oxpeckers flitting between the impalas, and it's actually wonderful to see them just sort of milling around doing what they are supposed to be doing in this natural environment. What a lovely way to spend an afternoon. Okay, I'm going to see what these impalas get up to. They seem quite relaxed, so I think the wildebeest did just have a wobble for no apparent reason. In the meantime, I know Tessa has headed back to Treehouse Dam to follow up on our little baby lapwings, so let's see what's happening over there.
Ben, I'm sure you would love to be here, but I beat you to it, I'm sorry. But yes, what indeed is the lapwing family up to? It seems like all spreading out now. They were hiding from the wind just now. And now it looks like the little chicks are bouncing around in different spots along the edge of the water. And the adults seem to be hiding behind the thickets, which is quite backwards. You would think that it would be the other way around. But they are getting quite brave now, very casually strolling up to the edge of the water. Even practicing their wading skills a little bit. And venturing further and further away from mom and dad. I particularly enjoy seeing the tiny little bit of movement. With the naked eye, I can quite easily see the adults, but to see the chicks is quite difficult. They look like a little ant's nest. They're so small with the naked eye. You know, when you see a little clop of mud or a little raised section of ground where the ants have been building a bit of a nest. That's what they look like until they move. You can hear the adult chirping still. Nature hugger, it is indeed the lap family. It's very cute. I think that these three little chicks are already very popular around the world. It's going to be interesting to see how the adults cope. They are chirping constantly. They've got a very watchful eye. But it does seem like they're getting more used to the chicks adventuring, which is the best way to learn. I suppose get thrown in the deep end and see if you swim. Now that sitting behavior that adult is doing when we arrived, it was exactly the same. The chicks, when the wind gets too strong, tend to go behind and underneath the wings to try and block themselves a bit from the elements, but also to stay safe, because animals are used to seeing lapwings. When they see a chick, it's a very different story, because then it becomes a potential food source much quicker. But you just see an adult sitting there, you can't really notice that there's chicks that might be underneath those wings. Maya, it actually depends on the different lapwing species that you're looking at, but you can't ever really exclusively say that you'll find them only at the water or only away from water if it's something like a Senegal lapwing or a crested lapwing, crowned lapwing, sorry. So for Blacksmith Lapwings, the rule of thumb is they're normally around a water source, but they don't have to be because they also feed on terrestrial invertebrates, so land insects. So ultimately you could find them anywhere that they're happy that there are enough resources available. I know that a Senegal lapwing is mostly found in open, grassy, dusty areas, but I have seen Senegal lapwings next to a dam, and I've seen Blacksmith lapwings up in the open areas instead of next to water. So we have general habits that we associate with the different lapwing species, but is not exclusive to every single pair, and it will be dependent on the area available, bearing in mind they're territorial. So this pair won't let another pair come in to Treehouse Dam, and there's a finite amount of water holes, so they will have to compete, and that means some might not be at the water's edge. But it would work the same with pretty much any animal, I suppose, except fish. If you find a fish in an open area of grassland without water, then there might be a bit of a different issue. Anything that is wholly dependent on water, you can usually say you don't find them anywhere other than water. So I can hear a woodpecker starting to pick in the distance, and it seems like everything is starting to come alive here now that the sun is setting. I'm going to stick around and see what happens.
Winter is coming. The plentiful lushness of summer will start to give way to a dry and dusty land. What does this mean for our WildEarth characters? As resources begin to dwindle, for predators it will become a time of plenty. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer and join Tessa and Ben for an exclusive and interactive fireside chat on the 27th of March straight after the Sunset Safari. They will be giving their insights into the drama that this dry season could bring.
Free Me Wildlife as an organisation is a value-adding service to the communities of KwaZulu-Natal. We are a professional wildlife rehabilitation centre. We work with compromised Indigenous wildlife, and our whole goal is to return these animals back into the wild as wild animals. To get involved with this initiative, go to our Facebook page, Free Me Wildlife. Alternatively, you can go directly to our website, freemewildlife.org. We hope you get involved, and thank you so much for your care and support out there.
But I think that's him. I think that's the one in must. Okay, this is getting serious now. I knew there was going to be trouble. Too many bulls and must over one herd.
I was taught to track by my grandfather. His name was called Jack Shitola, the first tracker in Sabi Sand, who was the first tracker to habituate leopard. Tracking is my favorite part of my gardening experience, because if you don't track, you will never find yourself having joy on the gardening experience itself. It's one of the best tools that you need to have. I'm being good on tracking because it's something that I've started while I was a young boy up to adulthood. My tips to all new guides, we have to respect the wildlife.
Hukamore. Oh, he is an impressive looking male leopard. Look at that neck on him. He just looks ready for a fight.
This is only the third time that we are seeing him that is known as the Hukamuri male, and he certainly has a lot of character and atmosphere.
This is gorgeous. Hukamuri having a drink at one of the little seasonal pans. Isn't he absolutely gorgeous? Compact, powerful, focused. I love it.
Hello everybody. Right, well, I managed to find this grass here. It's actually probably, if one can have a favourite grass, it would be this one. It's called blue seed grass. You can see how delicately these little inflorescence, which are the reproductive areas of the grass, they sort of come off in little branches. It's actually a really sort of geometrically attractive grass for me. We're not seeing the coloration of it, the blue seed grass, because we're coming into the winter months now and these grasses are beginning to die off. But these little spikelets, the little seeds, oh, this wind is difficult, the little seeds here often do have a sort of a purpley blue tint to it. Now, not only is this a very pretty grass, but it is utilised by a particular bird out here almost exclusively. There is a bird that makes its nest from this particular grass, this blue seed grass, and the clue is in the name. We've just found a nest off to the side, that's why I wanted to show you the grass first. And if Herald zooms in, you should be able to see those little telltale sort of inflorescence and those little spikelets in this little sort of woven ball nest that's sitting in a common spike thorn here. Now this is a blue waxbill nest. Blue waxbills are well known to have a great preference for blue seed grass to make their little nests. There is nobody in it. I did go and just double check, but obviously we're out of breeding season now for most birds as we are coming into winter. But it's this lovely sort of delicate woven ball, and you usually find it in thorny trees because it's a type of sort of mechanical defense for the birds. So often in the acacia trees, in spike thorns, in sicklebush, quite often right slap bang in the middle of the tree, hard up against a fork, although this one is on the peripheries. But those spines just help to protect them from any potential predators. The other thing I wanted to do was go and double check whether there was anything else in this tree, because blue waxbills are well known to make their nests close to paper wasp nests as well, which acts as a sort of home security. Any other predators come along and disturb those wasps and they will come out in force and most likely drive away a potential predator. And they also do eat ants, so it's a good way to ensure that you don't have too many ants crawling over your home as well. So very clever birds, these blue waxbills. And if you actually check in the distribution of the books, you'll see that the distribution of blue waxbills almost perfectly matches the distribution of that blue seed grass. So a nice little sort of association between grass and birds. Now, speaking of grass, there's one other thing I wanted to show you. There's another type of grass that we have out here, which is called speargrass. Now again, it's a bit late in the season to show you the actual grass itself. I'm just finding you a picture in the book. I'll hold it up, you might be able to see it. So it has these sort of big fingers and the seeds are right down here. And then you can see these long sort of tufts coming off it, which are called awns. And if you ever walk through the bush or walk through the field and you get all those things stuck in your socks, those are awns. They're just ways to attach to animals' fur to allow the seeds to distribute. But this particular species has an excellent way of moving around after the seeds have been dropped, and to potentially also to self-plant itself. And hopefully I'm going to demonstrate that for you now. So I managed to find a couple of awns. So you can see them here. I've managed to pick them. I'm just going to hold them upside down to begin with. I'm going to challenge Herald's macro skill. Tip of this sort of structure here is actually where the seeds are, and then you can see these long sort of tendrils coming out. These are the awns. Now what I'm going to do is just apply a little bit of liquid to these. So I'm just going to put some saliva on them, and you should see they should start to move around. Okay, can you see how they're twisting and curling? I'm not doing that. That's not the wind. They're turning themselves. So they're what we call hydroscopic horns. It's a fancy word that I learnt recently thanks to some students that I was with whilst doing a field guiding course. So this is actually a way in which the grass sort of distributes itself. It falls off, and if there's some rain, look at that, twisting almost 180 degrees. They kind of walk across the land to help them get away from the parent plant. And then what it'll also do on a microscopic level, there are sort of little, what would be the right word, little thread like on a screw, and potentially it'll sort of end up in a crack, and as it turns it'll actually twist itself and those seeds will self-plant themselves into the ground. So we get very excited about the big things up here, and the lions and the leopards and the elephants, but even grass in itself can be quite fascinating as well. So there's a self-planting and self-propulsion mechanism from a grass seed. It's always interesting to look at the smaller things. Okay, so that is called Speargrass. I'll pop these down and we'll do our little bit for seed dispersal as well. Zane, thank you. Yeah, there is so much diversity and you never know what you find out here, and the mechanisms that things have had to adopt to survive, particularly for trees. I mean, botany, a lot of people sort of dismiss botany as, it's just a tree or it's just a grass. But when you can't move, you have to make a plan to defend yourself, to distribute yourself, to be pollinated. And if you dig down into some of the, the science behind botany and how trees and grass are put together, it's actually incredible how they've adapted to survive. Okay, I'm going to carry on. I seem to be on a bit of a kick for small things this afternoon, but they are equally fascinating. So I'm going to send you back over to Tessa and see what she's finding on her bumble.
I have found one of the larger birds of prey that we get here, and I'm super excited because I have not seen a nice clear view of a brown snake eagle in what feels like ages. They seem to have been a lot more elusive than usual recently, so I had a very happy little dance when I discovered this brown snake eagle. It is sitting high up in a dead tree, and it looks as though it's hunting. And this is perfect weather, perfect conditions for a brown snake eagle to be looking for snakes that are trying to warm up before the weather change, maybe sunning themselves on a termite mound. Absolutely brilliant. If you listen carefully, you might be able to hear the wind swirling around us. It has picked up quite rapidly. We're getting these really large gusts. You can see the leaves blowing. But have a look at how still that eagle is. It has not been shaken at all by these gusts of wind. If you listen carefully, you will also hear thunder. Not the car driving past. Craig laughed at me there. He thought I was referring to the car. There is thunder behind us. So this is particularly good for birds. Today is going to be phenomenal for birding. The low pressure cell from the thunderstorm building up flushes insects out of the grass. So we are going to see quite a few birds today, I'm sure. Almost feels like from the wind we can hear rain somewhere, but it's just the slow rustle because the leaves are drying out now that it's autumn. The wind through the leaves sounds like raindrops. What is unusual to me is mostly when brown snake eagles in particular, because they are such large eagles, the fact that it's sitting high up on that branch and is not being mobbed by the smaller birds flying through is quite fascinating. Ed, I think that is all down to very strong muscles and very good balance, unlike me. I've got the muscle part, I don't have the balance part down. If I was to be up on that tree, I would have fallen on my face already. But birds have particularly strong legs that they can sometimes even lock in so that they don't fall off branches when they sleep. They've got a specific foot design that allows them to cling onto branches even when they're sleeping. But balancing like this in the wind, particularly for a big bird like this brown snake eagle that's going to catch a lot of wind resistance, that would come from having flexibility and balance. And that's just the way birds are designed. They're quite light for their size. A brown snake eagle can only weigh maximum 2 kilograms, but it's almost a meter tall. So that is incredibly light thanks to the air in the bones, thanks to the bone structure and the extra lung sacs. All of those things, they allow the bird to be light which means that it can balance more easily, and then it can really lock in the muscles on those legs to make sure it doesn't fall off the tree. I think the most fascinating is when their body moves, but their head stays locked in position, stabilizing mechanism in the head that allows them to keep their head at exactly the same space, even when the body's moving. I can hear a squirrel alarm calling. I would think most definitely because this brown snake eagle is here. And just because it's a brown snake eagle does not mean it's not going to eat those squirrels. It absolutely will if it gets the chance. I just want to have a little bit of a listen in case we can hear other birds alarm calling. Virginia, that's a really in-depth question. Thank you so much. I love it. Yes, the wind will affect the bird's aerodynamics. Sometimes, especially for bigger things like eagles, it means that they can get a lot more lift. So lift is what is required to get a bird to actually move upwards in the air without having to actively flap the wings too much. But it does mean, that unfortunately the feathers might get ruffled and blown in different directions, and that affects how the bird moves through the air in terms of controlling its directional changes, whether it's going up or down, and just in general the smoothness of the shape, because that will affect the friction from the air. So you can imagine if all the feathers are blowing backwards beautifully, it's nice and streamlined, it's going to be able to move and change direction fairly easily. But if there's a big gust of wind and it blows the feathers in different directions, that affects the streamlining of the body, and this will cause friction with the wind, and then you might find the birds lose their balance in flight. They start blowing in directions they didn't necessarily plan. They might lose a bit of height. They have to work a bit harder to stay in position. So absolutely, it does affect the aerodynamics. Eagles and vultures, though, are usually quite good at using that to their advantage. Smaller birds tend to struggle more, especially with being blown around while trying to change direction. You can see there its feathers are blowing up on the body. So you could understand why being like that might be an issue in terms of keeping the feathers in line. But it sounds like JP has arrived at a dam. I'm going to send you over to him while we watch this brown snake eagle for a little bit longer.
If there's any action over here so far, it looks pretty good. We've just had a young elephant bull that's approaching, and there's also a number of vervet monkeys that is just peeping through the vegetation at us. We're just going to give it a little bit more time and see if they do move into the open, and then we'll definitely pan the camera into that direction. I've been watching them through my binoculars, and they seem to actually be playing as well as grooming one another. We do see quite often that the younger individuals love playing, and they do so in an incredibly exaggerated manner. We also see when it does come to vervet monkeys, they also sometimes like fighting as well. And when you are the lowest ranking individual in that group, you are the one that actually gets the most punishment. And when it does come to giving punishment in these groups, they love doing so by biting. And those bites are generally aimed at the base of the tail area. And one of the most bite marks at the base of the tail is generally the one that is the lowest ranking individual in that group. While we were discussing digestive systems earlier on, I was also just thinking about something that they share in common with behavior with ruminants, although they are hindgut fermenters. And that is a behavior of actually storing food and then moving into safe areas, but they do it in a totally different way. They simply just stuff their cheeks full of food and then move off if they do see a threat. And they won't start eating their food that they've been ingested until both cheeks are full. We're just going to keep on watching them and see what they get up to. They seem to be incredibly curious. I was actually wondering where they were, because when we came down the road that's leading towards the dam, I actually managed to see a large amount of vervet monkey tracks. And here they are. Yesterday afternoon I went to actually have a quick walk close by to the town where I live, and that's right against the Drakensberg Mountains. I was very fortunate actually to see some Samango monkeys, which is a close relative of theirs. The Samangos actually prefer forested environments, and they tend to actually stick to the trees. Another forest species which I did manage to see over there was actually a red duiker. Compared to over here, where we always find grey ones. And if it does come to grey duikers, they're actually one of the duiker species with the widest distribution range and choice of habitats compared to all other species of duiker, which occurs only in forest. Our monkeys are now moving out of sight, but they're incredibly playful, and I can just see them through my binoculars. Paul, I'm not sure if you can still see them. There's a lot of little youngsters in this group, and they're running up and down the side of a tree and trying to play with one of the older individuals. Something very interesting that I saw actually a while ago when it comes to vervet monkeys was a group of monkeys that were feeding on marulas very close to the side of a very busy tar road. And one of the little ones ended up in the middle of the road. And normally they're always associated with the females. And in this case, we actually saw that one of the dominant males rushed into the road to actually grab the little one and take him out of harm's way. Well, it seems as if our elephant is now moving off, actually coming a little bit closer to us now at the moment. But let's go and see what the rest of the team is up to.
The 27th of March marks the change in season, whether you're in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. This means that the African sun will wake up a little bit later in the morning and go to bed a little bit earlier in the evening. To make sure that we get the best views of our favorite characters, WildEarth will change the time of Penguin Beach, and we'll be waddling on 1 hour earlier.
Spinning around in outer space, our planet gives life to the human race. Every day when WildEarth is out on drive, we see our Earth's beauty. We see her alive. We need our planet, that is true, but our planet needs us too. WildEarth will be celebrating Earth Day on the 22nd of April with a special safari live show.
Myself and Sebastian were looking for the Birmingham Pride sub-adults, and we just found them stealing a hoisted baby impala carcass out of a tree. This is incredible. It's the first time I've seen one of these youngsters. Whoa! Quite a good chunk there. Nearly fell out doing it. She might fall backwards. She's actually lowering herself down the tree. It's the first time I've seen a lion do that in person.
Look at that, there's a tiny leopard cub. Karula has given birth overnight. Look at the little guy who just came around the corner. That is incredible, that's probably his first solo kill.
Oh, and have a look, here comes Hosanna with the monitor lizard.
Hosanna, of course, at the same time decided to go climbing up the tree. He's just nearly fallen out of it again.
Look at that, he's running away. The buffalo is chasing Hosanna at the moment. Run away from this very big animal coming. That was so funny.
Okay, we'll just update you. We're now, I think, on Balanites now. I got a bit distracted looking at smaller stuff and completely missed my turn off Impala Road. But we're still going south. And we just bumped this young male kudu who is disappearing into the bush in typical kudu fashion. That's why we call them the ghosts of the bush. That was a young male, maybe about 3 years of age, looking at his horns. Oh, there he is. Just still nice, good job, Eckhart. Yeah, so with kudus you can use some sort of a ballpark aging mechanism of for every half a twist of those horns is around about 1 year of age. So 2.5 twists, which is their full size, is around about 5 years and up. But often you do see them on their own, or in little bachelor groups. We only saw this young bull though. But yeah, I'm going to sort of slowly heading southeast towards Gary Cut Line, and then I'm going to slowly head east and then maybe pop into Chetwa. I know we've had some great sightings of Langa. I haven't seen Marips yet, and he is one of my favourites. He looks like such a beautiful leopard, although Langa's eyes I've got a bit of a soft spot for as well. And of course they had the lions down there at Chitwa Dam this morning as well, so definitely going to head in that direction. That being said, I'm actually just trying to decide which way to go. Gert, which way do you suggest? Okay, Gert says right, so we'll go right. I'm still learning the roads here, and I get so distracted looking for interesting things to show you guys that I sometimes completely lose track of where I am. But it's kind of fun to be lost in the bush. Not lost, temporarily disorientated, as we like to say. That's often when you find the best stuff. Ah, okay, I see where we are now. Yeah, so I think we're back on Zoe's now. If you're going to sit still. The answer would be no. It looked like a little brown-crowned chagra that just flew across the road. Some lovely muted colours around the bush this afternoon with this sort of diffuse cloud cover that we've got. Gives everything a rather sort of haunting look from a distance. You get this lovely sort of dull contrast of all the greens and the oranges as we're very much coming into autumn now. A lot of these leaves are beginning to drain their chlorophyll, not waste energy. Biggie, have I ever seen a Sharp's Grijsbok? Not in this area, but I have seen one or two before, but not many, I have to say. It's one of those smaller antelopes, a bit like the Steenbok, that you don't see very often. Up in the northern parts of Kruger, around the Porphyry area, I saw a few when I was doing some work up there. Sorry, one moment, just getting distracted looking at some tracks. But I've never seen one in the sands. I'm not sure whether Tessa is. We'll have to ask Tessa whether she's seen any here. I just feel like we might have some leopard tracks on the road. I'm just going to have a proper look in a minute. But yes, they're kind of like dare I say, a chunky Steenbok, a fat Steenbok. They're a lot more rotund, a bit like a bushbuck is a fatter version of an Impala. So is the Grijsbok with these lovely little white spots on them. But it would be great. She looks like dog tracks. I don't know how fresh they are. Sorry, I get distracted, Vicky. No, so never have seen one here, but you never know. There's no reason why they couldn't go here. There's a possibility of some dog tracks on the road, but I don't think they're fresh. They're not from today. Maybe we'll check. Okay, I'm just going to have a closer look at these tracks. Obviously, they are dog tracks. It's definitely worth checking out how fresh they are. In the meantime, I think JP had some monkeys. Let's see if he's still got them that side.
A little bit higher up in the tree. And the one individual that we are watching that's moving his up into the tree is actually one of the dominant males in the group. And the way that we know that he's a dominant male is because of his sheer size. He's much larger than the other individuals, as well as a bright blue scrotum, which he has. And when it does come to color, primates see very well in color, and they need to do so because they need to discern between ripe as well as unripe fruits and flowers. But at the same time, they also need it for visual communication in terms of social roles, and being able to determine which individuals is more dominant within that group. So literally, the larger and the brighter the blue the scrotum, the more dominant the males are in that group. We also see that color also plays a very important role when it comes to baboons as well. Once again, for the same reason, for food, and second, also to actually identify females in this case, which might be in estrus. And generally, when females are in estrus, they will start showing bright red and blue colored bums, which is referred to as a callicite. And those are due to chemical changes that take place in the body. And we know at that specific time, only the dominant individuals in that group is allowed to the females. And it's an absolute taboo for younger males to try and even mate with them. But once they're out of estrus, then the younger individuals in that group can mate with them. I can see one of our vervet monkeys down onto the ground now. It seems as if it's going to come down towards the water's edge and possibly come and have a drink. Most likely, if one will start coming, the rest will soon follow. It seems that they're just underneath that branch. There we go. Good afternoon, AK, and welcome to the show. Yes, they're always cute and they're always doing something, and that's what I love about elephants and monkeys and baboons. They are so entertaining. Let's see what our little monkey is going to get up to. I'm not sure if the kingfisher is going to be very happy with him. Now the kingfisher has just flown off and made its way slightly somewhere else. Let's go and see what our monkey is now doing. I think he's busy checking and making sure that it's safe to actually go down to the water's edge. And this is a typical behavior that I've noticed, that they often will sit and watch and see what's going on around the waterhole. And once they feel that it's safe, then they will only start moving to the water. Just like with other bird species and other mammals, waterholes for them too can be incredibly dangerous environments. And in their case, especially leopard. And one of the things I have often seen is actually vervet monkeys being taken by leopard. But they're also incredibly cautious of leopard, and their good eyesight is what often keeps them out of trouble. And once they detect a threat such as a leopard, they will all start alarm calling. And it's also interesting that they will follow that leopard as it's moving. They'll follow through the trees and continue calling until it moves off. And when it does come to different predators, vervet monkeys actually have a wide range of different calls, which are specifically associated with specific type of threats. So the whole group will be aware of what the potential risk is at that stage, which they have to deal with. Well, we're going to watch our monkeys and our kingfishers a little bit longer and see what happens at the dam. And then from there on, most likely start moving on again. But let's go and see what the rest of the team is up to.
The 27th of March marks the change of season, whether you're in the northern or southern hemisphere. That also means that the sun goes to bed a little earlier and rises a little earlier too here in Africa. To make sure we get the best views of our favorite characters for WildEarth, we'll be changing our safari times here at Safari Live. We'll be live 1 hour later for our sunrise safari and 1 hour earlier for our sunset safari.
I think there's just so many wonderful things about elephants, and because they've got large space requirements, when you're conserving elephants, you're automatically conserving all the other smaller species that share the landscape with them. In 1996, my mother and I started drawing individual elephant ear patterns, so that's the margin of the ears.
Elephants Alive is a South African-based NGO that conducts research on elephants and works where elephants go. Elephants have taken us from South Africa to Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Eswatini as they forge vital corridors connecting protected areas at landscape level.
We've been going for 25 years, collaring elephants, developing individual elephant IDs, and we've also got a really big project where we protect large trees from elephant impact. And then we've also got various community outreach.
Our aim is to ensure the survival of elephants and their habitats and to promote harmonious coexistence between elephants and people.
So we've been extremely lucky. And this is what I'm talking about when I say just spend time with animals. This is very, very, very cool to see this. Do cheetah males groom each other for social bonding? And I can't give you a better answer than what they're actually doing in front of the camera right now.
It has been a wonderful privilege to identify one of our key characters here at Penguin Beach, Pepper, with a very, very distinct facial patterning, as the name would suggest, very peppered and speckled belly. I'm really looking forward to seeing what this penguin does over the next few days and months. Because of those unique markings, it's going to be really, really cool to watch it as it moves around the penguin colony point.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment we are still at Leopard Dam and we're still busy having a look at what our monkeys are getting up to. So something that I thought that I might actually share with you when it does come to monkeys, we actually find two groups of different monkeys. Those that are much the recent offshoot, and then those that are older group, which is referred to as prosimians. And the word prosimian actually means monkey forerunner. I just want to actually tell you something, quickly show you something else over here. There's a little grebe that's just caught a fish. That's right in front of us. I'm just going to see quickly what he does, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about the monkeys in a moment. That's actually a frog that he's caught. I can just see the legs moving over there, but I'm not sure which species of frog it is, as the back is turned away from me. I've noticed that these little grebes often take fish, but on this specific dam, it seems that they focus specifically on frogs and tadpoles. One of the interesting things that they also do is that they actually will ingest large amounts of feathers to ensure that the spines as well as bones of different vertebrates that they feed on won't actually damage their intestines. I think our grebe has now moved out of the way. Let's quickly go and look at what our monkeys are doing. As mentioned, we get the new group of monkeys and then the prosimians. And what we find with the difference between these two groups is that with the prosimians, they include the groups of bush babies. And in South Africa, we've got two different species of bush baby that we find over here. And then we have the three different species of higher primates, which is the baboons and monkeys. And we find some of the differences is that when it comes to bush babies, is that they're nocturnal, they're much smaller. We also find that their eyes are fixed in their sockets and they have to move their heads at some angles of 270 degrees to actually move, to see different objects. And then we also see that they actually have a very small cranium, which means a brain skull area. And we also find that they have less expressive facial features. But you can often hear them, so they make very distinctive cries. And especially that of the large species of bush baby that is known as a thick-tailed bush baby. Their call sounds like a baby. Opposed to that, with the higher primates, they've got much bigger skulls as well as more expressive facial features, and then lastly they tend to be all day active. Seems that they're now moving off, but let's go and see what Ben is up to in the bumble.
Thanks, JP. Always a pleasure to watch monkeys frolicking around, I'm sure. I've popped out onto, where am I? Gary Cutline, or Gary Main, whatever it's called, the boundary. And slowly making my way down towards Chitwa. So on the off chance that we have some spot luck around Chitwa Dam, or any cat park for that matter. I haven't heard any updates this afternoon, but say that area seems to have given us a lot of good fortune over the last few days. And if nothing else, just going to sit by Chitwa Dam is always a pleasure. Those tracks that we saw, the dog tracks were old. I actually think they were from the day when I had them a couple of days ago. And G also pointed out some male leopard tracks, but I know that Tortoise Pan was in this area this morning, and I believe his tracks was found on that road going south, and we saw where he crossed south into Little Gowrie. So I've not wasted too much time there, and yeah, heading west at the moment, so east at the moment. Oh, excuse the bumps. But yes, I always look forward to spending a little bit of time at Chitwa Dam. There's always something happening. I strangely haven't seen much in the way of fish eagles, but I know one was seen there yesterday, I think. Hippo's always entertaining, and I'm hoping maybe some elephants come down and have a drink, because I'm still looking for an elephant. A few more tracks there. Right, while I make my way through to Chitwa, let's send you back over to Tessa and see if she's found anything interesting.
So we have just come onto Mamba Link, and Craig pulled off a phenomenal spot of this gorgeous, massive feather. And we're in a little bit of a discussion at the moment about what we think this feather belonged to when it was still attached to a bird. And of course, Craig suggested I put it in my hat. But before we do that, we just want to have a look and see what you think it might belong to. It's got such gorgeous mottling along the body of the feather itself. And that band is very distinctive. Now, a feather of this size must belong to one of the raptors or the birds of prey, possibly a vulture. But the white mottling in particular is confusing me, because I would not say a vulture has got this white streak, particularly that one you're looking at now. That to me looks more like the barring, possibly on the underside of a tail or a wing. So I would love to know what you think it is. I haven't quite decided. Lisa, it is beautiful, and the mottling in particular makes me think of the stripes on a zebra where they join up. That section kind of between the neck, the back, and the front leg or the shoulder, where it has that little bit of a triangular shape and the stripes start to become spots and triangles. And of course that section right on the top of a zebra's tail, where it joins the spine. So I'm really not sure what this belongs to. You'll also see it's got a perfect clip out of the top, where it looks like part of the feather has actually broken off on the main shaft, which would have fitted there, and the feather would have extended right to the top to make a rounded shape for the aerodynamics of the bird as it's flying. But please let me know what you think it might be, because I have no idea. I'm trying to think of all of the black and white raptors, things like African hawk eagles, and I'm really not sure. But it's so gorgeous with those markings. So I think this is going to be my new pointer. When I pointed things in the book and show you small things, this might be my new pointer and the feather in my hat. Thanks to Craig. But I'm really confused. Do you have any ideas, Craig? No idea. I don't know what that could be. I'm trying to think of all of the raptors that have a bar under the wing or under the tail, but particularly black feathers as opposed to brown, because a lot of the raptors we have brown. Linda Poley, an owl feather. It very well could be. It's such a large feather. The biggest owls that we would have here would be Verreaux's eagle owl and spotted eagle owl. I would think lean towards more Verreaux's eagle owl than spotted eagle owl because of the colors. Because Verreaux's eagle owls are that light grey color with a bit of black and white, where spotted eagle owl is more brown and cream. But it's a good guess. It's very tough to know. I suppose we'd have to do a DNA analysis if we wanted a proper answer. But I don't know. The only one I could think of, I think this is a little bit too big for something like an African hawk eagle. Shreyas, brilliant timing as I was saying that. That was my first instinct, African hawk eagle. But considering the size of the feather, maybe a tail feather? Maybe a tail feather of an African hawk eagle, but they have more of the white on the bottom as opposed to kind of a midway bar. But it's a fascinating coloration, especially with a little bit of mottling at the bottom and then midway. Rosemary, you think it's definitely a vulture of some sorts. Normally feathers of this size, I would absolutely agree, a vulture feather. but I'm not familiar with a very distinct white mottling and barring effect on any of the underside of the vulture's feathers. Normally they're either black or cream and tends to be more towards the top end, not midway through. But I'm going to be having a good look in the book, I can promise you that. To have a look at the undersides, there are some fantastic diagrams in the book of the underside of bird wings, especially the raptors, especially vultures, and sometimes owls, just to have a look and see if I can figure it out. But it's absolutely gorgeous. It's quite big. You can see it's got a lot of resistance in the wind, so it's blowing quite a lot, even though I'm gripping it quite tightly. So imagine putting that in how many feathers. I don't even want to hazard a guess at how many feathers a bird has, but imagine that all over your body. Marcella, a female battalier? I wouldn't think so, because they've got such a short tail, and I would think that these feathers might be a bit large for the wing. Also, the female battalier doesn't have the stark white on the wing. It's more of a light ashy grey. I feel like this banding would be a little bit too bright and too distinct. But I'm really enjoying this game. I think this is fantastic for us all to be bouncing ideas off of each other. Part of the magic part of the bush. But what I do want you to have a look at very closely is the change in colour of the shaft of the feather. As it moves from the bottom, you can see where the white, very fluffy, downy feathers are. The shaft is white. Then it goes black. And as it starts getting to that white section, the band, look at the shaft colour in the middle. It's white. So even the shaft will not stay the same colour from the bottom all the way up to the top. Absolutely brilliant. But have another think about it. Let me know what you think it might be. Maybe JP might know what it is. But I'm going to keep looking in the book and see if I can figure it out. And speaking of JP, let's see what he's up to in Pridelands while I put together my puzzle.
Welcome back to Pridelands, and I hope that Tess is enjoying her feather challenge. Sometimes feathers can be very tricky. At the moment, we're enjoying the last little bit of sun before it disappears behind that mass of clouds. And the reason why it's now disappearing so quickly this evening is a big cold front that is moving in. And when we start moving west against the Drakensberg Mountains, we can already see how that cloud started forming and pushing up against the mountain. Earlier, I also did notice that there was a lot of cumulonimbus clouds, which is those clouds with great vertical dimension, and they're generally associated with unstable conditions when warm air is forced up very rapidly. It is very likely that we might actually even experience a thunderstorm this evening. But for now, let's enjoy that last little sliver of sun before it disappears behind the cloud. Good evening, Liam, and welcome to the show. Yes, you're 100% right. There is nothing like sunsets and sunrises, especially too. I just love watching them, as I always say. And at one stage, I think it was the most commonly taken photos that I had on my Instagram page. So a little trick that I often do is I simply keep my fingers horizontal, and 2 fingers generally equates to roughly some 15 minutes. And if I do the little math at the moment by taking up my fingers and stacking it up above the horizon, it pretty much equates to some 23 to 25 minutes of light that is left. I'll probably guess it will probably hit the horizon anywhere within the next 23 minutes that it will be below the horizon from where we can see it. Well, we're going to enjoy our sunset as well as listen to all the different bird sounds in the background, but let's go and see what else is happening.
Over the past year, many WildEarth explorers have won life-changing travel prizes.
Today, I was told I have won the most amazing prize to go to Maritaba. Oh, I can't believe it.
I am most excited to meet some of the guides.
The animals, the birds, and everything else it has to offer. We can't wait to go.
I would love to take my little grandson up with me on this experience to Funda.
WildEarth has brought so much to my life, and I am thrilled and grateful to have this opportunity.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to visit.
Thank you very much for this amazing prize, WildEarth.
Sign up to be an explorer today and you will be entered into a monthly draw which could see you jetting off to a dream location in 2022. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature. The Endangered Wildlife Trust is among Southern Africa's largest and most established non-governmental conservation organizations. Our strategic vision centers on saving species, conserving habitats, and benefiting people. In 2021, the EWT secured habitats, reintroduced African wild dogs and cheetahs into reserves across Southern Africa, and created vulture-safe zones to reduce major threats to vultures, such as poisoning and electrocution. On the 3rd of March 2022, we celebrate World Wildlife Day under the theme Recovering Key Species from Ecosystem Restoration. Standing strong alongside our partners, donors, supporters and friends, the EWT staff have achieved remarkable gains for conservation. Thank you for helping us protect forever together.
This is just incredible. I've never seen a rock monitor versus a leopard before. Now, unfortunately, this monitor does not stand a chance. Oh, look at this. This is super exciting. Did you see that? Did you see how it used its tail? And you can see this leopard has had enough now.
So we have just had quite an incredible moment. And I am starting to believe more and more that it might be a Bateleur wing feather in my cap. But if you look carefully in the middle of this nest, we have just seen, oh, that branch is moving in the wind. We have just seen a female Bateleur take off from this nest. And as she got up in the middle, kind of just a smidgen to the right of slap bang in the middle, you can see a little kind of mound sticking out of the nest. It is a Bateleur chick, and this is a massive first for me. I have never been lucky enough to see a Bateleur chick still in a nest. When the female got out, it actually lifted its head up. It seems to have gone back down again. But I'm wondering if we might get another glimpse. So I'm going to be patient and wait here because this is unbelievable. I have never in my life been this lucky. It seems like I'm having a lot of luck on birds and their babies recently. You might hear me shuffling around. I'm just getting my bird book so I can have a look at the feathers of the Bateleur in terms of this feather in my cap. Oh, how exciting. I feel like I should try and take a breath here. Oh, Tatum, I'm happy that we can share a first together today. That is quite fantastic. It's very unusual for us to be able to monitor birds of prey, especially when they have nests. But this pair of Bateleurs is resident here on Mumbalink. And just down the road is where I found the feather. So maybe we were right going in the direction of a Bateleur. Now, normally in South Africa, they'll nest anywhere between December and June. Mostly the average or peak season is from January. So it would make sense that after about almost 2 months there was a chick that hatched, and here we are in March and we've got a chick in the nest. So it seems like we are looking at a very perfectly designed Bateleur nest. I'm hoping that the adult decides to come back, but the more I'm looking at a Batalier's design, the more I'm thinking this might be a Batalier's feather. I think we may have been right on that front. Not that we were right, but have a look at the feather in my cap. And have a look at the design specifically here. Well, I need my feather. Shreyas, absolutely, I will share the Batalier Nest's location with you. So we're on Mamba Link, just to the south of Mamba Road on the eastern junction, but I will take a location for you. But have a look at the white barring here with the black and a little bit of mottling. And this is particularly the female. The male doesn't have the same white bar. So I think we did have a guess for a Batalier feather. If you look at it that way, it may actually be correct. It may be, because there's mottling on the top, a white band on the bottom, blowing in the wind, which is why it's shaking. But I think that may have been a pretty good guess. So I think we might be able to go with the Batalier. Well done. That is quite fantastic. I'm very excited about that. Well, unfortunately, the Batalier has not come back, but I know that every time we come along here, the Bataliers are normally on the dead stump that's in front of us. I've seen them there so many times, but I've never seen them on this nest. We only saw one chick, so I'm not exactly sure if there are more or not. And let me give you a very quick map indication of where we are as well, Shreyas, just so that I can help you out a bit with my Batalier feather for the Batalier nest. Fancy. So this is Mamba Link and Mamba Road. We are here just south of the junction. Just south of that junction there, that little T junction you can see. On the edge of the drainage line. Fantastic. Success. A massive success. And I think it's all due to the luck of Craig finding me a lucky feather for my hat. I really think so. The fashionista that he is at heart. Let's see if I can get it to stay for a little bit. The lucky feather in my hat. Let's do this. Maybe we'll find the other one somewhere down the road in another tree. Wow, what a day. All the baby birds are coming out. Wow, wow, wow. I am going to definitely keep coming back to check on that nest because I want to see if there's more than one chick. So exciting. Craig has a very good eye, so he's always spotting unusual things. That. I'm going to keep that safe rather. It's going to blow away. Can't lose the lucky feather just as I found it. Or been gifted it rather. So we are now just about to join with Mamba Road, Shreyas. Just about to join that T-junction. I know there's another nest. I've never seen them on the nest either. But it is getting to that time of day where we're losing light, so from now maybe we'll get lucky with predators. And it sounds like JP might still have a sunset. Let's go over and have a look.
Welcome back to Pridelands. Unfortunately, we've lost that sunset several minutes ago already. But we're just sitting here in the hope that we might spot something that might come in for a quick drink before we eventually have to return to camp, as it will get a little bit darker earlier this afternoon with the cloud cover that we now have in front of us. But let's sit and listen and look and see what happens around our dam. Good evening, Linda. Yeah, it's actually very beautiful still, and it's also very peaceful, and I'm just enjoying all the different sounds and listening to the wind that's blowing through the trees above us, and at the same time just looking at all the different birds that are still moving around and listening to some of the bird calls. I think the wind actually might just now actually muffle those sounds out, but we don't hear them any longer. But there was Egyptian geese that was calling, and it did sound like some glossy starlings that are also calling in the background.
At WildEarth, our explorers are treated to a weekly newsletter, bursting with fascinating features and never-seen-before snippets. Recently, we have added some brand new sections which we think you will love. Find out what happens behind the scenes with our crew when they are not live on WildEarth. Have a giggle at our moments of the week from both Safari and Penguin Beach. And Ranger Eric answers your questions with fascinating and in-depth explanations as to the whys and hows of nature.
Wild dogs coming out of, or the puppies coming out of the den site making those very high-pitched noises.
All of this and more delivered to your inbox every week. So what are you waiting for? Head over to our website, sign up to be an explorer, and join the adventure. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature. Pangolin, known as the respected wise old man of the African bush, is said to be a symbol of good luck and the bringer of rain. 8 species of pangolins are found worldwide, of which 4 occur in Africa. This mysterious creature is now the most poached animal on our planet. The African Pangolin Working Group will strive towards the conservation and protection of the African pangolin species and the habitat they live in. The African Pangolin Working Group has been mandated by the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment to assist and support with the retrieval, release process and the research of pangolins in South Africa. Each rescued pangolin is assessed, treated and rehabilitated by an experienced team of veterinarians and rehabilitation specialists. We can ensure the survival of the species. Together, we can make a difference.
We have got an epic battle going on between a pirate fly and a drop-tail ant. Look at that, look at that. So what's happening is these ants are moving from one side to another, and these pirate flies are trying to steal the baby ants.
Access road to Djuma Dam, just pulling up to the dam now. We are going to just sit and take in some of the sounds of the sights, hippos, some of the water birds, hoping for a fish eagle perhaps. Let's see what we can find at the dam. Always a treat to spend these twilight hours at water. But before we get there, let's enjoy this male Inyala. Just feeding, just ruminating off to our right. You can see a marked dimorphism between the males and the females. This male with a beautiful dark charcoal coloured coat, whereas the females have a much more orange colour with very distinctive white stripes. Excuse me.
Andrew, I left at the Madonna line by the concrete slab or concrete wall. Not part of the demo. They will drive over the concrete heap and park on top of it. You see that there will be no one actually you get a nice view from the top there.
Jojo, you're asking if they'd be able to survive without their neck hair. Yes, I would think they would do. You can see his lovely beard, just slightly obscured by what looks like a russet bush willow. I don't really think the neck hair does a great deal. The hair along his back that you can see is sort of a mane, which is floppy at the moment. That will stand up if there was a territorial dispute between two males, sort of a visual display to intimidate and make yourself look bigger. But I don't know of any specific reason for the neck hair on the underside, that sort of beard that's flopping down there. So I'm sure they probably could survive without it. If any of you've got any ideas what that neck hair is for, I'd be very interesting to hear it. It's not something I've been asked before. I wouldn't have thought they're like whiskers or sensory hairs. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I'm sure they would survive, but they might miss them. You can see he's busy ruminating away, and you can see those lovely twisted horns, which puts them in the same family as the kudus and the bushbuck, or we don't call them families in antelope, they are tribes. So it's the Traglyphini tribe, which means sort of twisted horn or spiral horn antelope. Very beautiful. Sorry, Nadine, I didn't copy that. You broke up. Megan Edwards, I apologise. I heard a comment. I think you were saying how beautiful the antelope was, in which case I would completely agree with you. He's rather a magnificent specimen, but say all the antelopes are in very good condition at the moment after all of the summer rains and summer vegetation. Thank you, Megan Edwards. Yes, a handsome boy indeed. Beautiful. Look at that lovely white flash on his across his nose there. You could see there's a couple of other white spots on his chin as well, and there's a lovely little sort of African story that says that is actually the spots on his chin is the sort of the fingerprints of God, and that slash across the nose would be the thumb, and that's apparently where God put his hands around the nose of the impala and breathed life into him. Hello, boy. Yeah, so those are the thumbprints, those incredible little bright white chevrons. What those are actually used for, well, there's some school of thought that say it's designed to reflect light into the eye to help with nocturnal vision, or it may just show be more of a visual display, drawing attention to the eyes, a bit like makeup. Okay, I'm going to spend a bit more time with this rather stunning Inyala bull, and let's send you back over to Tess to see what else she's found on her bumble.
So we are sitting at the junction with Central Road and Drakensberg, and we've had a very good observation from quite a few viewers regarding our feather mystery. So it makes a lot of sense that this might be an African African harrier hawk, Jim the Gene, on the tail. Have a look at the tail feathers there. And there. So it's got a very distinct black and white bar, and what you can't see very nicely in these diagrams is that there is a lot of mottling just here under the tail where it joins, and so that could be the bottom section of the feather, if we look at it that way, against the tail. Absolutely brilliant. So I think we've narrowed down our choice to an African Harrier Hawk. I think that's the ID. Thank you very much for the help, everyone. Absolutely brilliant. You don't realize how big these feathers are until you actually find them and realize they're longer than your face. That's the tail of a bird. Quite unbelievable. But I wanted to get back to something that Ben mentioned earlier before I carry on down Central Road. He was chatting about a grysbok and asking if I'd ever seen one in the Sabi Sands. No, I haven't. And I know we're doing a bit of a jumpy conversation, but I want to mention it before I forget, because if I get any more excited, it's going to all go out one ear after having come in, bounced around a bit, and then just scattered. I have seen Sharp's grysbok in the Kruger National Park in the self-drive section, but only twice in my life, never ever in the Sabi Sands. I wanted to mention. I know Ben will appreciate this feather, that's what made me think of it, luckily. Otherwise I would have forgotten that as well. But I did want to get back to it before I forgot. But now we are back on our adventure. We're headed down Central Road back towards the area of Gowrie Dam in case Tsemba has decided to come out, or maybe Malawati decides to pop his head out again. Just want to have a look-see what might be around. It's been a very lucky afternoon with predators so far, hasn't it? Brown snake eagle, battaliers, battalier chick. And I know that there was a battalier chick that was studied last year. I think it was last year, April. That particular nest, I know where that one is. It's just off of Cheetah Cutline. So it's a different pair to that pair that we saw now with the chick. So that's quite exciting, because I don't think this particular pair has been studied with a chick before. So I can't wait to see what happens. So much going on. So many new families around to investigate and study. Right up my alley as a scientist. Now, one of the main branches that I love and wanted to specialize in was animal behavior. And that was a massive chunk of what I did actually specialize in. But I'm particularly fascinated by how animals' behavior changes and how they interact with each other. So every time I see something new, like a new chick, I really love it. Ooh. Rusty's kicking himself out of gear again. But it sounds like Ben is having a pretty good time on Chitwa, so why don't we head over there and see what's happening.
Thanks, Tessa. Very cool that you got your battalier chick. That's one to watch. Well, we've got to Chitwa Dam, and it seems that our blondie, or blonde mane Nkahuma, or Avoca male, I should say, hasn't ventured too far from where Tessa found him this morning on the dam wall. We're just on the other side of the dam wall, and we found him lying up in the shade of what's called a weeping wattle. He did have his sort of eyes open earlier, but he looks to be very, very comfortable where he is. But this is a perfect spot for him. He's found a nice spot of shade. He's got water right next to him. And we're hoping, obviously, with it being a little bit cooler this afternoon, that it won't be too long until he gets up. And I'm sure he'll go searching for his brother. Where Mohawk is, I'm not sure. I know they weren't seen this morning. But from speaking to Tess, he was sort of kept looking in a southerly direction from here, so maybe the rest of the pride is somewhere further south. But I haven't heard anything on the radio that they've been located. So it'll be interesting if and when he does get mobile, if he goes in search of the rest of the pride, or his brother at least. But hopefully we'll get some calling and some roaring like we did this morning. Yes, Mary, we do. Well, we have lion rather than lions, but we will happily take one lion. I've only seen this boy one time, and I know he does have a rather nasty limp, and I'm not quite sure what happened to him. And you can see certainly he's not in as good condition as his brother. You can see his hips are sort of, you can see them there, thanks Eckhart. You can see those hips don't look very good. It's often a sign of a lion who's struggling a little bit to get sufficient nutrients. and the muscle tone is wasting away a little bit. How he got his injury, I'm not sure, whether it was from hunting, maybe a kick from something like a giraffe or a buffalo, or it could just be a genetic or a muscular thing. But he's definitely struggling, and he often seems to be lagging behind the rest of the group when I did see them walking a couple of nights ago. But lions are pretty resilient, so even if he was to have to go it alone, I'm sure he'll be all right for a while. He's breathing very deeply, enjoying a good sleep. Leona, that's a very good question. I've certainly never heard of a lion suffering from anything like cancer. They are susceptible. The biggest sort of disease that affects lions out here is tuberculosis. There's a big problem with bovine tuberculosis in buffalo and various other antelope within the Kruger area, kudus and yalas and things. And if they eat an infected buffalo, then that TB is often passed on to the lions. There's been a lot of debate as to, what can we do about that. They've talked about vaccinating and trying to fix all the buffalo, but there are just so many of them that it's just not financially viable. And they have done studies, from what I can recall, although again, as always, I stand to be corrected, that even though it does make lions look a little bit frailer, if I can say that, not in such good condition, you often find them, their lymph glands are quite swollen, so sort of they're equivalent to where their elbows are. You see lumps, particularly in the cubs. And whilst they don't look quite as attractive as some of the other lions, it only affects their life expectancy by a few years. So it's been it's sort of decided that it's not the best course of action. It's just not viable to try and vaccinate every lion or every buffalo in the park. Other than that, I mean, rabies can affect them, and a lot of lions are vaccinated against rabies, but that's more because of the man-made influence. So the general rule of thumb out here is natural problems, it's a natural answer. Man-made problems, then we will consider helping. So what I mean by that is something like rabies is often transmitted from feral dogs from the local communities that maybe get into the park and infect something, and that goes through into the wild population. And because that's something that mankind has influenced, then we would potentially look at doing something about it. But a natural problem, then we leave it to nature to sort out. We are here to observe, not really to interact. But other than that, I can't think of any other specific diseases. I've certainly never heard of lions with cancer or anything along those lines. Feline AIDS, of course, is another one. Although I have to say I don't know too much about how that affects the population. But we do have, occasionally we hear of cases of feline AIDS, and anthrax as well is another common disease found amongst wild animals, particularly up in the northern end of Kruger. But good question, thank you. I will see if I can find anything out, but I don't know of anything other than those ones. You can hear the hippos behind us at the dam. We're very close to the dam wall still, starting their symphony. And the wind is definitely picking up. You can see how the grass is moving now, so I'm hoping that perhaps this wind is going to bring in some interesting smells, or perhaps some audio from his brother, who can't be too far away. And as soon as he gets mobile or puts his head up, I'm sure you guys will be the first to know.
Safari Guide of the Year 2022 is upon us. An event like no other, where guides from across the country join together to learn, share experiences, show off their skills, and tell tales of the wild. But it's not all fun and games in the African bush. This is a competition to see who is the very best of the best in the guiding world. If you are a qualified safari guide and have what it takes to go up against your peers, download the nomination form from the FAGASA website and send it to md@fagasa.org.za by the 31st of March 2022. Dream it, guide it, win it.
Free Me Wildlife as an organisation is a value-adding service to the communities of KwaZulu-Natal. We are a professional wildlife rehabilitation centre. We work with compromised Indigenous wildlife, and our whole goal is to return these animals back into the wild as wild animals. To get involved with this initiative, go to our Facebook page, Free Me Wildlife. Alternatively, you can go directly to our website, freemewildlife.org. We hope you get involved, and thank you so much for your care and support out there.
It's a legless skink, but I'm trying to identify this snake that's come out. Oh, no ways. It's decided to leave. Go for the road, making way for it, and then we'll carry on.
Stanley is such an awesome African penguin, and personally, my favorite. I love Stanley because of that amazing plumage variation, that beautiful broad black breastband with the cutest little white heart directly in the middle. And Stanley plays hard to get, but we are so happy to have him down here at Stony Point and can't wait to share Stanley's life with you.
Welcome back to Eco Training Pridelands. At the moment we are just driving around an area where Laggerfur was seen this morning. I'm just going to quickly go and see if we can potentially find her. Although she's incredibly shy at the moment, she tends to seem to move away from vehicles quite quickly. And unlike the other lions that we do find around here, she actually likes a lot more personal space. Right, while we're driving, I'm just going to be quiet and allow you to listen to some of the sounds in the background, as well as just enjoy the landscape as we're moving about. Sometimes quite difficult at this time of the afternoon when it comes to tracking. It's almost to a point where you want to put the light out because sometimes it helps it, but also it's just in that transition period where it's almost easiest to still spot the track on the road itself. That's very likely that she's actually continued directly from here into a northerly direction into one of the neighboring properties. I just want to quickly follow up and do a quick search and see if she's gone out into that direction. However, over here, the soil is now actually becoming much more loose and gravel and compacted, which makes making tracking almost impossible. That's just amazing how quality of soil can influence how easily you can track or not, and how it can alter the appearance of a footprint. Well, we move on. Let's go and see what the rest of the team is up to.
Well, thanks, JP. Good luck with your lioness. Our male lion is still flat in the grass in the shade. Well, there is no shade anymore. It's dark, or getting dark. But he hasn't moved, so I've just repositioned slightly so that whilst we wait for some activity from Blondie, we can enjoy a bit of Chitwa Dam. Our hippo pod here is beginning to wake up. We've had a couple of yawns and a couple of vocalizations. Of course, now it is beginning to get dark because it's 6:15. At some point in the next few hours, they will venture forth from their watery domain and head out onto dry land to feed on grass. And they'll be probably eating potentially up to sort of 40-50 kilograms of grass in an evening, plucking it with their very, very strong lips. And then they will return back to the dam before sunrise. But you can see we've got a little bit of social interactions going on, a few yawns, some youngsters having a bit of a play there. You might be able to hear in the background the water thickneys, what I like to call the flat battery bird. They sort of go... Sounds like they're running out of steam halfway through their call. Very much a characteristic call of the African night close to water. Well, after saying there was a bit of activity, they've all ducked their heads under again. It's a strange animal, no? The river horse, as a hippopotamus sort of directly translates to, but you can see how perfectly adapted it is for that aquatic environment. There's ears, little tiny ears, because of course they're not so reliant on hearing, unlike kudus and nyalas and rhinos that have got those big sort of ears that move around in all directions. Their nostrils and their eyes right on the top of their head, so they can just have the top of the head emerged from the water. Ali, you're quite right. It is the best part of the day, and there's no better place to spend it than to chill next to the dam. You never know what might come a-calling. We actually had some very fresh, small female leopard tracks on the way into Chitwa Dam as well, which we got a little bit distracted by. I think it might well be langur, because they weren't fully adult-sized yet, or perhaps another leopard. There are so many of them here. So possibly she might come down for a drink as well, you never know. But it really is the best time of the day. We haven't got much in the way of colour this evening, but we did see a very distant flash of lightning a little bit earlier, and there are the potential of storms forecast over the next couple of days, so it's a very dramatic scene, certainly. You can hear a couple of frogs. Oh, yeah, there's some lightning in the distance again, just some cloud-to-cloud lightning, but far away at the moment. You can hear a couple of frogs beginning to wake up, painted reed frogs cheeping in the background. But let's see what else we can hear if we sit quietly. Billy deer hippos ever get cold in the water during winter? Not really, not as far as I know. Even though they look like quite fat, blubbery animals, no offence, hippos, they've got a very sort of thick subcutaneous layer, but it's not a fatty layer. Their skin is actually one of the thickest hides of any of the animals out here. It is not far off 2 inches thick, and it's sort of the skin itself which is rather fatty, rather than a layer of blubber that you might find in a seal or a whale. And that is a wonderful insulator against the cold. But you will find that in the winter they will spend a lot longer lying outside and sort of sunning themselves to warm up a little bit. But I don't believe that they ever get officially cold. I've never seen a hippo shivering, put it that way. I was actually chatting to Tess about the weather earlier today, and she said the coldest it's ever been recorded in this area is about -8 degrees Celsius, which is freezing. Okay, but we're going to keep monitoring hippos and lions. I haven't seen any movement from Blondie, but if he does anything, we will definitely let you know.
Winter is coming. the plentiful lushness of summer will start to give way to a dry and dusty land. What does this mean for our Wild Earth characters? As resources begin to dwindle, for predators it will become a time of plenty. Sign up to be a Wild Earth explorer and join Tessa and Ben for an exclusive and interactive fireside chat on the 27th of March straight after the Sunset Safari. They will be giving their insights into the drama that this dry season could bring. Spinning around in outer space, our planet gives life to the human race. Every day when Wild Earth is out on drive, we see our Earth's beauty. We see her alive. We need our planet, that is true, but our planet needs us too. Wild Earth will be celebrating Earth Day on the 22nd of April with a special safari live show.
The thing I love about Russ is that she's taking good care of us. She gets us to sightings, like we drive over thick blocks.
The most memorable experience with Wendy was 2 nights ago. In fact, last night, when I had a flat tire right in the middle of the herd of 400 buffalo and had to change it right there and then. That was by far my most memorable experience with this trusty old girl.
The only tough experience on Rusty would be to forget to charge her.
Well, she's only broken down with me once, and it was basically just a loose steering rod that we fixed in the field.
We use big batteries to power up everything, so if it happens that you don't charge it, she'll die on you, eh?
Since then, she's treated me very well. She's taken me into a number of sightings, and it just seems to keep going.
So I've just spotted a little scrub hare in the road. It looks like it's moving across the road and towards the thickets. Now, preferably in weather like this, the scrub hare is going to want to stay in the road, in the open, because the wind and the cloud cover make it quite dangerous to be in an area where you can't see. So an open area gives you a better chance of seeing a predator in conditions like this. Now this is in fact the first mammal or bird or anything, first animal we have seen in quite a while because of the weather. Not only is the scrub hare going to be nervous and wanting to be staying in the road, impalas, duikers, steenbok, even the birds are very nervous on a day like today, so we have not seen a single one since it got dark. Can you imagine being the scrub hare? You've got very large ears, staring into a wall of grass that is 3 times your height. It's windy, so the grass is moving, making noises. The leaves around you are making noises. The smells are circling. Imagine how hard it must be to pick up a leopard in that grass. So that's why the animals are nervous today. It's definitely one of those days where things are going to be a little bit more shy. But while I watch the scrub hare for a little bit longer, let's see what Ben is getting up to on Chitwa.
Good luck with your leopard in the grass there, Tess. Excuse my giggling. We had a hyena in the grass, which has now disappeared and become one with the grass. I'm hoping he'll pop out somewhere. We were just scanning the area around where the blonde mane of Ocker is still sleeping peacefully, and I caught a eye shine with the spotlights, and turned out to be one of the hyenas, and he's just gone behind this sort of ridge. So I'm hoping he'll pop out again at some point. and possibly may even disturb the lion. I think he smelt the lion. He was sort of making a beeline in that direction and had his nose up. It'll be interesting to see if he does pop out. I wasn't able to get an ID, and I don't know here by Chitwa Dam, of course, whether we would still expect to find members of the Djuma clan, or whether or not there will be a different clan of hyenas in this area. But I'm going to keep scanning for the hyena whilst you guys are watching the lion. But there's sort of a bit of a bowl in front of us, and he disappeared into the bowl where we can't see the way we've parked. I've just been informed that the Djuma clan does roam through this area as well, but yes, it was just a fleeting glimpse. I actually thought we found a leopard. As I was just telling you, there was tracks for what I assumed to be langur just by the size of it a little earlier. Thought we'd lucked out and we're going to be able to give you a lion and leopard in the same sighting for a moment.
Just move a little bit closer.
Sure. What, with the light or?
With the vehicle.
Just move forward a touch.
Yeah.
So, viewers, just bear with us. We're just trying to get you the best view possible. Now, is that better for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, it's a bit of an awkward spot there. He's nestled down in between this rather tall grass, right next to a big tree as well. But he hasn't twitched since we found him. I was rather hoping, especially with the wind picking up, that say there will be an interesting scent on the air or something he might hear. But I would think it won't be too long until he starts doing something. Right, so we're going to keep a close eye on Blondie here, but let's send you over to Tess and see what she might have found.
Now, I know we wanted to see some spots today, and it might not be the spots that you're expecting, but I am so excited about this. Nature hugger, anything with spots, a pearl-spotted owlet. I think that this is the first owl that I've managed to get a solid glimpse of in a very long time. If you can't see it because of that excellent camouflage, there you can see the eye now. Wait for the movement of the head. Very well camouflaged, tiny little owlet, only around 19 centimeters tall, and an absolutely fantastic predator. It's amazing how it blends in. You cannot see it when it turns its head away. Now it looks as though it's hunting. It's chosen a very smart perch right next to the road. This is Weaver's Nest. I'm at the junction of Weaver's Nest and Philemon's cut line. Have a look at that positioning. Anushka, happy birthday. I'm so happy that you're spending your birthday watching WildEarth. What a special way to spend the day. I hope that we've managed to find a few of the birthday things that you were looking for. Where did it go? To the end branch? Somewhere back there. But that is the first little glimpse of an owlet that I have had in a very long time. I saw a glimpse of a southern white-faced owl probably 2 weeks ago or so with Morgan. I think, yeah, 2 to 3 weeks ago. And that was the first glimpse of an owl that I've had, but I haven't been lucky enough to actually be able to show you one yet until now. And it was a pearl-spotted owlet, which I think is beautiful. Their call is very iconic and definitely one of my favorite owls. My mom's favorite is an African scops owl, but I haven't been lucky enough to see one of those at Djuma yet. But yes, pearl-spotted owlet, definitely a massive win. So I'm going to carry on up Philemon's cut line now, or down I should say, after that. Fantastic. Formidable little predator, looking for things like insects crossing the roads, especially now at night. Small things that might be warming up on the surface of the sand. Absolutely brilliant. Well spotted Craig again. Craig's eyes are phenomenal. Oh goodness, that was like a big sigh of relief after finally finding an owl. Very similar to an African barred owlet. Slight differences in the flecking on the chest or the breast. One has little bars like the barred owlet, and the pearl spotted owlet has more smudges running downwards instead of across. And of course, 2 spots on the back of the head. The pearl spotted owlet looks like fake eyes on the back of its head. Fascinating feather formations and pattern. Very good distraction, so nothing feels like it can sneak up on you from behind if you've got eyes on the back of your head. I was just thinking it's going to be a perfect night for predators because of the weather. And there we had it, another predator. In fact, I've been very lucky on predators in particular today, and especially raptors and birds of prey. No matter how small. Can't see something ahead, but I think it's a plant. My mind is forming leopards out of plants today, everybody. Oof. I don't know if you saw that lightning, but that was quite fascinating. The sky lit up quite a bit. But it sounds like Ben is still with Blondie. We've got the double B power happening there. So let's go have a look.
Yeah, thanks, Tessa. Good luck. Well, Blondie has put his head up. You have to excuse us. We're having a few lighting issues, but we're making a plan for you guys. But you can see he's up. He's had a yawn. He's sniffing the air. Looking beautiful. Look at that mane. Oh, shame. Let's see how stiff he is. You can see how his pelvis does not look particularly comfortable, and like any of us when we've been lying down for a long time, it takes him a while to get mobile, poor boy. Just a little ablution break. You can see his ribs, you can see his spine there. He's not looking wonderful. Okay, I'm going to have to reposition the car. Bear with me, everybody. He hasn't gone far actually, he's just flopped down next to us here. So it was all a little bit too much for him. You can see he does look a little bit sore. It does take him a while to get moving, poor boy. But once he gets moving though, I saw the other night, once he gets the blood flowing and the muscles going, he seems to move a lot more smoothly. Nate, yeah, I'm not exactly sure what he's done. I believe, obviously I've only been here a week or so, but I think this is a longer term injury. It happened a little while ago. He's not with the rest of the pride, which is surprising because he was when I saw him. But I'm sure he would be feeding if the opportunity was there. Obviously it's strange that he has become separated, whether the rest of the pride has just sort of left him behind because he does lag a little bit at the back. I'm not sure, but I would be surprised because brothers, even if they are injured, will normally still stick together. But if he has lost the rest of the pride, and I'm sure he'll track them down tonight when they start roaring and communicating. I'm sure the pride has also been lying up today. But if he was to become completely separated or isolated, he would certainly struggle, because he's going to struggle to hunt anything. Although that being said, I've seen quite a few lions over my career that walk like that and they look very uncomfortable, but actually when they break into a run, everything seems to function a lot better. It's a bit like you, you know, if you have to, you can. Yeah, poor guy indeed, Tony, I'm afraid. Like I said, I'm not sure exactly what he's done, but he does not look very comfortable. If he does have to hunt for himself, as I said, he may still be able to. That only time will tell in that regard. Otherwise, he'll probably eke out an existence scavenging. I mean, if he was to come across a leopard or just one or two hyenas, I don't know about an entire group of hyenas if he can't move freely. But, you know, a leopard, if he can get there before the leopard gets its kill up a tree, or if it's just a couple of hyenas eating something, he should be able to chase them off, and he may be able to eke out an existence that way. But I'm sure we'll keep you updated of this. It does become a bit of a soap opera after a while, but I'd like to think once everybody gets cooling again this evening, that he will rejoin the group. Let's cross fingers for him anyway. Okay, we can see if he does anything else, and maybe he goes for a drink at some point, and we'll see how we get on with our lighting conditions here. But let's head back to Tess and see if she's found her nighttime spots yet.
Feather that is making the drive lucky, because we passed another pearl-spotted owlet just a little bit further down Philemon's dip, or Philemon's cut line. Oh, wow, 2 in one night. Unfortunately, I didn't get to show you the second one, but I got wildly excited that there was another one less than 50, 100 meters from the other one. What an evening for the predators it is. So I know that Ben did sow his road. I'm going to do Mando's monkey orange. But speaking of Ben, it sounds like he has got some action on that side, so let's go have a look quickly.
Oh, well, welcome back, everybody. Blondie just popped his head up, and you can see he heard something. We didn't hear anything. But I think possibly his brother or some of the pride started calling, because he instantly roared, gave us no warning whatsoever. He just finished, unfortunately, before you guys came back. But his head shot up. Remember, their ears are a lot more sensitive than ours, and that deep rumbling roar can be heard by lions, some say by up to sort of maybe even 30 kilometers, if not more. We can hear them from sort of 8 or 9 kilometers away, depending on the conditions. But I think he heard his brother, and he instantly responded, or heard somebody. So I'm hoping that he will do it again, but it was rather impressive, that's for sure. Come on, buddy, do it again. You can almost see he's listening for a response. It's interesting, his head literally shot up and he looked around. I was wondering whether maybe something was walking past. But evidently he heard something. Yes, let's hope he does call again. I'm sure he will do at some point, because he is going to try and track down his brother. Timing is everything. going to have a bit of a clean. It might mean he's going to get moving soon. They say never work with children or animals. They're too unpredictable. Now, it seems he's going to plonk his head down. Obviously he heard something. And we're going to have to wait and see whether he does it again. I'm sure if he does, we will try and bring it to you next time.
The 27th of March marks the change in season, whether you're in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. This means that the African sun will wake up a little bit later in the morning and go to bed a little bit earlier in the evening. To make sure that we get the best views of our favorite characters, WildEarth will change the time of Penguin Beach and we'll be waddling on 1 hour earlier.
I think there's just so many wonderful things about elephants, and because they've got large space requirements, when you're conserving elephants, you're automatically conserving all the other smaller species that share the landscape with them. In 1996, my mother and I started drawing individual elephant ear patterns, so that's the margin of the ears.
Elephants Alive is a South African-based NGO that conducts research on elephants and works where elephants go.
Elephants have taken us from South Africa to Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and Eswatini as they forge vital corridors connecting protected areas at landscape level. We've been going for 25 years, collaring elephants, developing individual elephant IDs, and we've also got a really big project where we protect large trees from elephant impact. And then we've also got various community outreach.
Our aim is to ensure the survival of elephants and their habitats and to promote harmonious coexistence between elephants and people.
Right, so Marips has found himself a puff adder that he's busy playing with, which is dangerous. I've seen leopards die from puff adder bites. I think he got hit on the paw. So he's obviously taken snakes on before. But at what cost, Marips?
Identifying individual African penguins can be extremely challenging because at first glance, they all look the same. Identifying Duo, an African penguin with a double breastband, was extremely exciting for me. Less than 5% of the African penguin population has this unique variation in plumage. And I can't wait to share Duo's life with everyone on WildEarth.
So to catch everybody up that did not see this, there is a chameleon hanging on for dear life in this tree. It is blowing around like crazy, and I think this chameleon is really struggling to hang on. It's done a pretty good job. I haven't seen it move at all, but I'd love to know how easily everybody can spot it, because it is almost right in the middle of the frame now. But it's blowing around so much it's tough to see. You can see the very curly tail though. Can you possibly zoom in more, Craig, or is it a little bit too windy? Yeah, it's a little bit windy. But it's kind of just the very light green section on that branch right in the middle now. Oh, shame. It's being shaken around like a rag doll. I often wonder if chameleons have a special adaptation that stops them from getting motion sick. Because I'm fairly sure if you put most people on a ride like that, you would probably get sick after a long night. Laura Moore, it is definitely a tough life out here. I don't think there are many people in the world who would be able to survive these conditions day in and day out, every single day, without any help. I think chameleons in particular, this one, are going to have quite a rough night. I'm very surprised to see it so far out towards the end of the branch. Normally on very windy days, the chameleon would have been right in the middle of the bush. We wouldn't have even spotted it. But I think it made a miscalculation when it chose its spot. My goodness. This poor chameleon is going to have a bit of a headache in the morning. Now it's most likely not going to move at all during the night. It's just going to keep that grip solid to make sure that it doesn't fall off and accidentally injure itself by being flung around in the wind. So it'll very likely just sleep there with those claws locked over. Oh! Let's just watch for a little bit. I'm fascinated to see if it just stays holding on. Goodness gracious. Well, it sounds like Ben and Blondie are having almost as much action as this chameleon on the branch, being flung around by the wind. So let's head over there and have a catch up with them.
Yeah, thanks Tessa. Always very nice to see a chameleon. I forget exactly, but I think chameleon actually does translate to dwarf lion, if I remember correctly. But yes, Blondie hasn't moved much, I'm afraid, not since that initial vocalization. And so we were just commenting now, the wind is very much picking up. And so I think we're going to give him another minute or two with us here. And then potentially we're going to call it, I think, an evening for him and leave him to hopefully find the rest of his, or at least his one brother. Oop, head up, there's another vehicle that's just popped into the area. But yes, his ears haven't pricked up, so if that was his brother calling, it doesn't seem to have been reciprocated. Interestingly, he's sort of sitting in a bit of a bowl, and there's a big barrier in front of the direction that he was calling, so I wonder if it didn't diminish his ability to project his voice, but I would highly doubt it. So it's a very special adaptation that these roaring cats have, the Panthera species. They have a larynx which can sort of move forwards and backwards, which can vary the tone, and their hyoid bone, which is a floating bone, which we also have. It's the thing that sort of attaches to your tongue. Ours is a bit more like a wishbone in terms that it has a solid bone connecting the two halves of it, whereas in the roaring cats it's connected by a piece of cartilage, and it's that which allows the larynx to move, and it sort of vibrates and oscillates to create that reverberation. And the very large mouth and quite high palate acts like a reverberation chamber to give the call even more depth. You can probably hear the wind picking up, and there's his mane blowing in the breeze, and the temperature is definitely dropping as well. sleep with one eye open. Okay, I think we're going to leave Blondie in peace here, and I hope he meets up with his brother this evening. But let's head back to Tess and see what else she can find on her nighttime bumble.
I seem to have found a shield bug, but I think it's somewhere on my clothes because I smell like a shield bug at the moment and I can't see a shield bug. So I would hazard a guess it flew into me while I was driving, and now it is somewhere on my person. Other than that, we're seeing a few moths. Not many, because it's blowing so hard that the moths are going to be blown around like little candy flosses on the wind. It seems like the leaves are falling off of the trees at a rate of knots. Of course, typical autumn, but now that everything is coming down, it's really coming down. So I'm taking a super slow drive through the seep line because this is such a thick area. Very good for animals like Shedulu, tortoise pan. Is that another chameleon? Why are they all on the ends of branches? Cindy, yes, they do. Oh, yeah. They do release an odor as a form of defense. It's usually a chemical and it's designed to really kind of deter predators, which includes humans. Some of them, like blister beetles, smell very acidic, but unfortunately they are also very acidic. There. I don't understand why the chameleons are on the ends of branches. It makes no sense to me. Surely on a night like tonight when it is so windy, the chameleons should be somewhere safe towards the middle. Maybe it's a form of defense, maybe they know nothing else will brave coming that far out. I mean, that could be a thing, I suppose. Sorry, my presenter's light has just decided to increase its intensity on its own there. I just find it fascinating that it would be sitting on the edge of a branch blowing around like a rag doll. Usually on windy nights we don't see any, and now I've seen two in the space of 100 meters. Matthew. Living on the edge, that they are. Goodness gracious. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for that comment, Matthew. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to leave this chameleon. With our luck, we're going to find another one in 100 meters. Hopefully, luckily, right? But yes, going back to the odors of shield bugs and things like that, the odor is designed to deter predators because it's not something that you want to eat. It doesn't smell good, so then it automatically makes your mouth taste bad. But I can speak from experience when I say they don't taste good either, because occasionally you won't be concentrating and it'll fly into your food, and believe me, you know about it when it's not a peppercorn and it's accidentally a shield bug. It does not taste good. Very similar with things like blister beetles. They've got an acid that smells very bad, but it actually burns. I have had welts like you can't believe from blister beetles, and the problem with this is they hit your chest when you're driving at night, because I'm the first barrier, I suppose, after the car bonnets. They hit your chest. There's another chameleon. Are you kidding? I'll show you a quick view of this one. That is ridiculous. It's through the grass, so it's not going to be a very easy view. Yep. So I just want to show you. It's chameleon fever. That one you can at least see the legs. That's quite cute. Also, pretending to be a leaf right on the edge of a very windy tree. I think this is a defense mechanism. knowing nothing else will take a leaf or take a chance by going to the end of the branch for a leaf in the wind. Fantastic. Wow. So even a chameleon won't necessarily go for something like a shield bug, because even the chameleons might be prone to any form of toxin or acid. And I know I'm very unimpressed by blister beetles being in contact with my skin. They always fly into my chest and fall down my shirt, and then they get stuck in there. So I wouldn't recommend it. Nadia, I'm happy that you love the chameleons enough that we don't really need the leopards. I know Nature Hugger as well, wanting to see spots and giving it a bit unconventionally today. I think chameleons have some spots too, some little lighter spots down their sides. Maybe this is what we should do from now on. Focus on the small things. Please tell me that's not another one. It is indeed. There's another one there, a little one. We clearly have hit the chameleon mother lode, the center of origin of chameleons. Not really, but it seems like it. What is going on? It's all the bush willow trees. I'm just shocked. This has been my best night for chameleons so far. Definitely the lucky feather. I'm in two minds whether I should go along the power lines or whether I should go along Impala Plains. I think I'm just going to go and have a quick look at Impala Plains and then I'll come back along power lines. The 27th of March marks the change of season whether you're in the northern or southern hemisphere. That also means that the sun rises a little later and goes to bed a little earlier. To make sure we get the best views of our favorite characters for WildEarth, we'll be changing our safari times here at Safari Live. We'll be live 1 hour later for our sunrise safari and 1 hour earlier for our sunset safari.
The Endangered Wildlife Trust is among Southern Africa's largest and most established non-governmental conservation organizations. Our strategic vision centers on saving species, conserving habitats, and benefiting people. In 2021, the EWT secured habitats, reintroduced African wild dogs and cheetahs into reserves across Southern Africa, and created vulture-safe zones to reduce major threats to vultures, such as poisoning and electrocution. On the 3rd of March 2022, we celebrate World Wildlife Day under the theme Recovering Key Species from Ecosystem Restoration. Standing strong alongside our partners, donors, supporters and friends, the EWT staff have achieved remarkable gains for conservation. Thank you for helping us protect forever together.
But I think that's him. I think that's the one I must. Okay, this is getting serious now. I knew there was going to be trouble. Too many bulls and must over one herd.
I am here at Jacuzzi, where Cheeky the African penguin was identified for the first time on the 20th of January 2022. And Cheeky can be distinguished from the other African penguins by its broad black breastband, as well as its beautiful black spots along its belly. My favorite distinguishing feature of this African penguin is its beautiful white cheeks. Join me here at Penguin Beach daily to learn more about this African penguin.
Okay, well, we left Blondie still lying in the same position next to Chitwa Dam. He hadn't moved, and obviously as the time is getting on, and especially with the potential of some heavier weather coming in, we've chose to leave him there. But hopefully he will catch up with his brother, at least if not the rest of the pride, sometime during the course of the evening. I've just gone past Twin Dams, not much happening there. A couple of impala having a drink, but everybody looked rather relaxed. So I said at the beginning of the drive that I was quite keen to find some elephants and an owl. I have failed in my quest for elephants. However, this is owl time, so I'm hoping to find an owl. I know there was a little white-faced Scops owl seen yesterday. I think Kelly got one. Maybe a spotted eagle owl would be nice. Or a barn owl. Actually, barn owls are beautiful. I keep hearing them. They're definitely around. But I'm yet to see one. I did see a pearl-spotted owlet. Sorry, I can't say I haven't seen any owls. But I would very much like to see a barn owl, although I find you very rarely see them anywhere on Game Drive. Not sure why they choose not to show themselves. Often the best evidence we get is the following morning when we go out. Owl tracks are very distinctive. They make like a K shape just because of the formation of their feet. It looks like the letter K stenciled into the sandy roads in the mornings if they've been walking around hunting, particularly the spotted eagle owl, which is normally the most common owl in this area. Kim, your 2.5-year-old daughter would also like an elephant. Well, she sounds like a woman of good taste, certainly. I think, though, we may have to try that one tomorrow for you. We just haven't seen very many elephants over the last few days. Every now and again they're coming through, but they're not hanging around as much as they were because the marulas have stopped fruiting. And they've obviously moved on to pastures greener. Perhaps there's an area where there are still some marulas in fruit. Otherwise, with the bush drying out, they are going to become a little bit more nomadic, as it were. Of course, they're not territorial animals. They will stay within a home range unless they need to move out of it. But I will try very hard, even if it is on the way home, if we can find one for you. You never know. They do move around at night time. They don't really sleep. They will doze and they will take little, I called them jumbo naps the other day. Because they do have to rest, but they have such a poor digestive system that they need to keep eating, and often they'll be eating for sort of 20-21 hours a day. So we do bump into them at night time. Anything is possible, certainly. But you put added pressure on me. If I don't find one tonight, I will most definitely be keeping an eye out for one for your daughter tomorrow. We have seen 2 chameleons. I know Tess has had 3 already, so I'm feeling the need to have a bit of a chameleon off. And we'll keep count, perhaps, and see how many we find on the way back. We have to amuse ourselves out here in the bush. Oh, make that 3. I don't know, we'll try. We are having a few lighting issues, but we can try just to prove that we can also find chameleons. Can't give Tess all the glory. Show that we also have a chameleon. Up a bit from there, Echad. There he is. He or she. Another flat-neck chameleon, but this one doesn't seem to be holding on for dear life. It's found a little bit of a shady spot, although there is a bit of a dip in the wind at the moment. Actually, wasn't sure it was a chameleon. It didn't have that sort of classic curl-tailed up, but I think he's probably got his tail wrapped around the branch for stability purposes. You can see the wind is picking up again now. Hold on, buddy. So that's 3-3, I think, unless Tess has found any more whilst she's been off air. But all flat-neck chameleons. There is a dwarf chameleon that we find up in the more mountainous and forest areas. But I sense this is going to be a thing for the last half an hour, so as far as my count is, it's 3-3, so let's send you back over to Tess and see if she's found any more.
Ben then does it count if we found 2 others but didn't put them in the frame while we were driving? Does that count at all? Oh goodness. Now I have got some impalas ahead of me on Impala Road. How fitting. Just turn my headlights off so I don't disturb them. It seems to be a bachelor herd. Let's quickly stop and have a look. See, you never know what you're going to find when you stop and have a look at animals, so it's always a good idea to just analyze a little bit, never brush anything off. Looks like at the moment there's 3 here. One is hiding behind the bush at the back, and then even behind the bush there's more. Now he's quite fascinated by us. Fairly young male. Definitely won't be the biggest in this bachelor herd. Oh, and they're a little upset because it's windy. So any movement, they're not feeling so confident. You can see how none of them are feeding. Let's just have a listen. Maybe we might pick up on some interesting sounds while we watch them. Oh, they got a massive fright there. Sarah, I think it's due to the fact that they are the animal we see most often. So statistically they are going to look more scared than the others because we don't spend enough time with the others, or as much time with the others, to notice when they're scared. Also because they are the perfect sized prey for leopards, lions, crocodiles, hyenas, wild dogs, all of the big cats, even cheetahs. They are naturally more cautious than other animals. They're the perfect size. They are really not looking so happy. I don't think I would be either, with this much wind, and now it's starting to cool off very quickly as well. This is when leopards are going to be most successful at hunting all the predators, but particularly leopards. They use the wind to cover the sound and smell of their approach. There's no moon yet, so it's still pitch dark outside. It's just perfect. Alright, let's have a look and see what these impalas decide to do. They are looking very nervous.
Over the past year, many WildEarth explorers have won life-changing travel prizes.
Today I was told I have won the most amazing prize to go to Marataba. Oh, I can't believe it.
I am most excited to meet some of the guides.
The animals, the birds, and everything else it has to offer. We can't wait to go.
I would love to take my little grandson up with me on this experience to Funda.
WildEarth has brought so much to my life, and I am thrilled and grateful to have this opportunity.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to visit.
Thank you very much for this amazing prize, WildEarth.
Sign up to be an explorer today and you will be entered into a monthly draw which could see you jetting off to a dream location in 2022. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature. Pangolin, known as the respected wise old man of the African bush, is said to be a symbol of good luck and the bringer of rain. 8 species of pangolins are found worldwide, of which 4 occur in Africa. This mysterious creature is now the most poached animal on our planet. The African Pangolin Working Group will strive towards the conservation and protection of the African pangolin species and the habitat they live in. The African Pangolin Working Group has been mandated by the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment to assist and support the retrieval, release process and the research of pangolins in South Africa. Each rescued pangolin is assessed, treated and rehabilitated by an experienced team of veterinarians and rehabilitation specialists. We can ensure the survival of the species. Together, we can make a difference.
Myself and Sebastian were looking for the Birmingham Pride sub-adults and we just found them stealing a hoisted baby impala carcass out of a tree. This is incredible. It's the first time I've seen one of these youngsters. Whoa! Quite a good chunk there. Nearly fell out doing it. She might fall backwards. She's actually lowering herself down the tree. It's the first time I've seen a lion do that in person.
It seems Tessa's vetoing my two previous chameleons because they weren't framed on the camera. Since she's changing the rules as we go, so am I. So we've now decided that we're going to look for scorpions on the way home, and scorpions are worth double points. So those are the new rules, Tessa, I'm afraid. In other news, it started to rain. We did expect as much with the strong winds, and so we saw a bit of thunder in the distance. It's very, very light at the moment, just a smattering more than anything else. But there is certainly some droplets in the air. Oh, sounds like Hertz in command of my UV torch this evening, and he says he might have seen something. What have you got? Oh, yeah. And just some claws sticking out. I've just been told that Tess might have had a scorpion a bit early, but you couldn't see him, but he was there. But then, by that rationale, if my chameleons don't count, that one certainly doesn't count. So there we go. That's worth at least 5 points, I reckon, because it's only just the claws sticking out. He says we're not competitive, eh? But this will be another one of those little bark scorpions, the Epistocanthus asper. And again, we are having some issues with our UV lights this evening. Sorry, our IR light. So having a UV torch actually makes up for it. And we can get some very interesting images now of these scorpions as to why they do, or to see them fluoresce under the ultraviolet light. This one will be living in this little crevice in a tree. It looks like one of the bush willows from the bark. And he'll be there the whole time. I actually chose to take a different road because the other night I came out looking for scorpions and we found quite a lot. I didn't want to do the same road because I don't want to show you guys the same scorpions each time. But we were commenting the other night, it's actually scary when you have a UV light, just how many of them are around that we don't know about. I remember once, I can't remember where I was staying, but in a sort of a very rustic tented camp with a thatched roof, and I was fiddling around with my UV torch and I made the mistake of turning it on while it was pointed up at the thatched roof, and I don't know how many bits and pieces of scorpion I could see living in the thatch above me, and instantly turned it off again because ignorance is bliss to some extent. The other thing we noticed a little bit earlier is that some species of lichen do glow quite prominently under UV light as well. And I actually did a little segment the other day where I said that some lichen had been into space. Oh, my batteries died. Oh, okay, sorry guys, we're just with the rain here. I'm going to carry on moving, we just need to cover the camera. So yes, we were talking about how lichen is quite immune to radiation at some point, and a lot of the radiation from the sun comes off in ultraviolet light. So I was just wondering then whether the fact that some lichen does reflect UV light, whether that's one of the reasons that it is able to withstand direct sunlight and even some of the rigors of space and those solar winds. That's something that I shall have to do a little bit more work on. Read up a bit more. In the meantime, we're at Philemon's Dip now, and yeah, headed slowly up to quarantine, and obviously always on the hunt for a last-minute leopard. I don't think we had any luck relocating, well, no, we had no luck relocating Semba from this morning. So maybe we bump into him around quarantine. There's always some impala to be had in that area. And of course I'm still looking for my owl or owls. Okay, let me send you back over to Tess. We're just going to shore up for this rain as it's getting a little bit heavier. But yeah, let's see what Tess has found on her bumble.
Ben, you still haven't told me if mine count. 2 owls, although I only managed to show 1. A scorpion, although I didn't manage to show you, but if you rewind, you might see it running across the road. I just got an insect on my top. Sorry. And then 5 chameleons, even though you only saw 3. Oh, Ben, you're saying everything doesn't count. That's mean. Mean. I work so hard, I tell you. Oh, big dip in the road. Ah, goodness gracious. I'll have to find a snake or something then just to top it off and put the discussion to rest. Yeah, the rain is starting to come down on this side as well, so it is going to be a bit of an interesting last little while on safari. We are also noticing the lightning coming closer, which is also going to be interesting on safari. But we're having a great time. Oh, Ben. Aha, chameleon. It's far away, but we're going to try. Ben, I know you think things don't count, but they do. Wait for it, it's coming. Ha! Look at that beautiful creature. Chameleon. That takes me up to 4. That's exciting. Also, quite close to the edge of a branch. This is fascinating. I know that it is partially, you know, a defense thing to stay on the end of branches, and of course it's warm out, so that would explain why there's more chameleons, but I don't understand in such severe wind. Maybe they're just immune to motion sickness. So I suppose then it would make sense. Okay, let me see if I can find another one. One up. I will take it. Oh, hello, rain. Also, one thing I do want to point out to you is how long the grass is on this section. I'm on power lines approaching Zoe's junction, and I'm telling you, grass here is really long. I don't know if you can see it behind me, but it's literally taller than my head. How crazy is this grass? I just had to show you. Thank you, Craig. It is super long. Even if I stood and walked through that, it would still be taller than me. It is quite perfect for a leopard in hiding in that section. Also, even a thing like a young elephant, a teenage elephant, would disappear in grass like that. So either way, it would be quite fascinating. We are having to start covering up a little bit on the back. So we're going to see how it goes.
We're going to have to go pop on the roof.
Ha! Justin, it's a ridiculously lucky day. I'm happy with all the chameleons. I think they have been so cool. I'm glad we can show them. Okay, we have to go put the roof on, it seems, because the rain is getting harder and we are quite close to camp, luckily, so it shouldn't be too difficult for us, but we are going to have to pop it on quickly. And all of our rain covers. So I'm speeding up a little bit. Let's see how we go. I'm actually just about to have quarantine. And I've just seen another chameleon, but I can't show you because of the rain roof.
At WildEarth, our explorers are treated to a weekly newsletter. bursting with fascinating features and never-seen-before snippets. Recently, we have added some brand new sections which we think you will love. Find out what happens behind the scenes with our crew when they are not live on WildEarth. Have a giggle at our moments of the week from both Safari and Penguin Beach. And Ranger Eric answers your questions with fascinating and in-depth explanations as to the whys and hows of nature.
Wild dogs coming out of, or the puppies coming out of the den site making those very high-pitched noises.
All of this and more delivered to your inbox every week. So what are you waiting for? Head over to our website, sign up to be an explorer, and join the adventure. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Free Me Wildlife as an organisation is a value-adding service to the communities of KwaZulu-Natal. We are a professional wildlife rehabilitation centre. We work with compromised Indigenous wildlife, and our whole goal is to return these animals back into the wild as wild animals. To get involved with this initiative, go to our Facebook page, Free Me Wildlife. Alternatively, you can go directly to our website, freemewildlife.org. We hope you get involved, and thank you so much for your care and support out there.
So we've been extremely lucky. And this is what I'm talking about when I say just spend time with animals. This is very, very, very cool to see this. Do cheetah males groom each other for social bonding? And I can't give you a better answer than what they're actually doing in front of the camera right now.
Shongile was born on the 3rd of February 2016 to Karula, the Queen of Djuma. We watched her grow from birth to enforced independence when Karula disappeared. On the 19th of August 2016, Tandy, Shongile's sister, was on the prowl. From nowhere she appeared, and a traumatic fight ensued. That was the last sighting of her on Djuma. She disappeared into the wilderness just as her mother before her.
Okay, so I'm up on quarantine now. There's impalas everywhere, has to be said. So I'm still hoping to catch a glimpse of Semba from this morning. I know he wasn't seen since he disappeared into the drainage line south of Gary Dam. But with these conditions, it's windy, there's a little bit of drizzle now, ideal hunting conditions. So I wouldn't be surprised if either myself or Tess does bump into something this evening. We've got sort of 10 minutes left of the show, and one of these fabled last-minute leopards would be good to see. I'm also still very much on a scorpion hunt, and anything else unusual and nocturnal would be a real treat. Scrub hare just run across the road. I don't think that counts as any points. Milan, yes, I suppose scorpions do look a bit like crabs, eh, with those big pincers. I'm trying to think. You do get a water scorpion, which is obviously not a crab either, but that's actually a type of insect as opposed to an arthropod. Remember, arthropods like scorpions, sorry, an arachnid. A scorpion is an arachnid. All arachnids have 8 legs, whereas insects have 6 legs. So a water scorpion is actually an insect. But yes, they do look a bit like crabs. But believe it or not, we actually do get crabs up here as well. We do get some freshwater crabs occasionally in some of these dams and things. And I have seen a couple of times on Game Drive, you see a crab running across the road, which is probably the last thing you would expect to see, but it does happen. But I'm sure we'll pick up another one. It'd be nice to find you a different species. I know when we were out with Kelly a few nights ago, we managed to find an olive thicktail scorpion. All the ones we've seen so far have been the bark scorpions, because those are the easiest ones to find, because they sort of have those little cavities under bark and in dead trees where they kind of live, so they're always there. A lot of the other ones are free roaming. there's Tessa. Hello, Tessa. I think we've both had the same idea. Check up on... Gert says he's got one. Let's have a look. So one in this marula, perhaps. Oh, yeah, nice, nice, nice. Let's see if we can pick that up in the camera. We just have to turn the spotlight off so it illuminates better. There we go. A little bit far away, but hopefully you can pick that up. Yep, there we go. So it's another one of those bark scorpions. You can see those big pincers sticking out of a little knot in a tree. It looks like a branch has broken off this marula. And again, destruction creates opportunity sometimes. A little micro habitat for little arthropods. And in this case, another bark scorpion just sitting there with his pincers out, waiting for a little insect to walk past that he could rush out and grab and pull back into his lair there, or her lair for that matter. There is a way to sex scorpions by looking at their pincers, but I think we'd need to get much closer. The males have got like an extra little spike on their pincers, and that's actually used in mating, so the male actually kind of clamps the female's pincers shut so that she can't nip him. Alright, while we continue on our little scorpion chameleon challenge, let me send you back over to Tessa and see what she's found.
We have got our roof on, we are back out. The wind has picked up out of nowhere and you feel like we are driving into a blizzard at the moment. So it's never a dull moment on safari, everybody. Not a single minute of it. Let's see if I can get it. It's crossed over. There's a scorpion on the road apparently. I'll look for another. It's one of those warm nights with the rain coming out. Termites might be popping out, and owls, scorpions, all of the small predators should be out and about, hoping that they can get a nice easy meal. There's something on the road. I see an eye. Spider. Very tiny spider. It definitely seems like this weather came in out of nowhere. I'm hoping for a little... Oh, there's some impalas that look very nervous. There we go. Little last minute find. Oh goodness, I don't think I've seen impalas look that horribly nervous in a while. I'll try and put it out the left side so that Craig doesn't have the bars of the roof in the way. Oh, listen to the sound of the rain. Now have a look at this fantastic strategy. Group together, everybody looking around, everybody stick together, and when you run, split up. Fantastic strategy. Now they're more nervous because the rain has started. Now you see they regroup. And they are definitely feeling very uncomfortable with the weather conditions. Wild Dog, thank you so much. Thanks for joining us. Absolutely brilliant afternoon. I think we've had some very unusual things. And we've been quite lucky in the things that we found today, especially considering the weather, the way it has been. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's a little bit cold, so I've got my arms crossed. But all of the wonderful things we had, the lapwing family and everything in between, Ben's scorpion and all of mine that he didn't count. But we are going to be out and about again tomorrow morning, so we're excited to see what we find. We will see you there, hopefully, and we're looking forward to it. But I think today has definitely been an unusual day, and hopefully, if tomorrow is half as lucky, it'll be absolutely brilliant. We're looking forward to seeing you. Good night, everybody.